revisions to the agenda.
Oh,
Do you have some extra agenda?
yeah.
Tessa brought the.
Is there one underneath there?
Yes, there is. Yes.
Maybe.
Seriously, I need all the mentorship.
I brought a cold brew if anyone.
So if there are no revisions to the agenda, then we'll move on to the approval of the May 21st, 2024 meeting minutes. Everybody in favor, say aye. Motion proposed.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 21 meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
Right, approved. Everybody that approves, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed, say nay.
Did Aaron's request for assistance get added to the agenda?
You know what? I don't think it did. Can we add that? Can we go back and revise it? Okay. Let's do the revision to the agenda and we add that after the, so let's do it before the MGX presentation. So figure out the best place to put it.
There's the review the survey results on the second page.
Yeah,
Is that about the request?
No, it's not. It's about this member survey that
Yeah.
we did.
Oh, okay, never
Well, we
mind.
could probably
Sorry.
put
But
it
we
in
can
there.
put it right there, yeah. Okay, and then
Or
what's
with the request for assistant changes, yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, let's put it right before. After the 2024 strategic planning retreat, the action item, the review of the survey results, and then the request for assistance for Aaron. That'll be right before the new board business. Okay. Great. Any other revisions to the agenda? So let's start with welcome and introductions. We do have some new people on the board. So I'd like to kind of go around the room and have everybody, Bob, you're actually up first. Introduce yourself and what your role is on the board. And then maybe tell us what you think, like what your priority for the year is. Rob.
Okay, yeah, hi. Most of you know me, some of you don't. Robert All, and I am the chair of the Education Committee, or we now call the Scholarships and Grants Committee. And you know that involves lots of communication with our educational institutions and educators around the state. We have a K through 12 education grant that essentially designed for teachers to integrate GIS or geographic concepts into the classroom. We found that difficult, and we're finding more success with after school programs and things of that nature because it doesn't involve altering their curriculums very much. And then we have the higher education scholarships, and those are for undergraduates and graduate students in higher education institutions across the state. Tends to be MSU and U of M, but occasionally we get some tribal colleges and things like that into the mix. Yeah, been doing it for a while, and I find in order to be successful with those programs, it really requires direct connections with people on the ground. especially on the educator side, you really need to, reach out to either people with who have students in their home and who are involved in school boards and things of that nature, or meeting educators directly, showing the potential of what we could help them with. So it's been fun, very rewarding, and it's interesting to see it evolve over time. So anyway, that's what I've been involved in, and love to talk to you more about it.
Thank you,
But I'll
Rod.
pass it on for now.
Megan.
Yeah. Hi, Megan Burns, the new web administrator
Well, the
position on the
official-
state,
The
official.
official one.
Officially a
Awesome.
board position. Previously been working as a web admin,
Anyway,
yes, just not in a board member capacity. Before that, I was on the board as president, vice president, past president, and then secretary before that, so have a long history with the board. My main goals this year is just to get that web administrator position more fleshed out and getting procedures and policies in place for the web position that's a little more written down and
Formalized.
Formalized,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Thank you. We're so
Yeah.
happy.
thank you.
Jeff.
I'm Jeff Hedstrom. Many of you, actually, all of you know me, obviously. I feel like I just got off the board, so. I just served as president, past president previously. And before that, I was professional development chair in 2016. So back on the board, again, in a different capacity, conference liaison, but I have experience with the planning conferences. I helped plan I was the local chair for the Great Falls Conference back in 2016. That's kind of what kickstarted me getting on the board to begin with. So yeah, I'm happy to kind of fill that role again, but kind of in a different capacity as more the liaison from the planning committee to the board. So, but yeah, my upcoming goal obviously is to plan a successful 2025 and 2026 conferences in the next 2 years. So
Awesome. Thank you.
looking forward to the next 2 years.
I heard Schreier said he's gonna stop by.
Oh, good.
Nice. Hearings.
Great.
Hillary. Stop taking notes for a
Thanks.
moment.
Yeah. So I'm Hillary Koth, and this is my second year as secretary on the board. So my primary responsibilities are just to take minutes during the meetings, and then do some updates to the website just as far as anything that we've passed in motions. And that's pretty much my duties. I think goals for this year, maybe carving out a little more for the secretary. Like I know Jeff's taken on roles like doing the recordings and maybe if I can help out a little more with those things, that'd be great.
Yeah, Megan, Google Drive.
Yeah.
Cleanup project.
Yeah.
20 years of clutter in there.
It's a big deal. Thank you, Hillary. You're welcome. And then Helen.
Hey, everybody. I'm Helen Paris. Pretty sure I know everybody here and on the call. So I'm brand new to the board this year, so I'm really excited to be joining as a member development chair. And I really want to focus on growing and diversifying our membership, as well as hoping to provide new professional development opportunities for some of our newer to professional world members. Maybe come up with some good language for that. Since I think young professionals we talked about maybe feels a little ageist. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and probably first to learn a lot more about what you guys have all been doing for a while and learn and grow and think about ways to improve.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So excited to have you.
I have the people listed on.
Okay, past president Mike Powell.
Mike Powell, I am past president again this year. I'm taking over for Jeff Brock, who could not, due to just work commitments that he has in Billings, was unable to continue. Was more than happy to step in and finish up his term with the approval of everybody. Thank you. My goal is really to help out anybody and everybody. If any questions for, about the board and what we do and where things are and stuff, as I'm still learning where things are too. And of course the election this year, it went good, but we didn't get a vice president. So that is an issue that we still need to come up with. But hopefully we can get that figured out and do the election next year.
Thank you for agreeing to stay on as past president. It's really super important role, and I'm really, really glad you're here. Eric, can you unmute yourself, Eric Spangenberg, and tell everybody who you are? And
sure. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm with the city of Helena and Lewis Clark County. My role, I am I guess I'm the appointed member to the Magip board from the Montana Geographic Information Council. From my role on the council, as a member on council, I was appointed, the governor appointee to the council as being a member of the Montana Association of GIS Professionals. So I guess my role would be representing the MGAC on the Magip board in terms of that framework of things. So I guess my only role this year is to make sure that we have that open line of communication between Magip and the council on what's going on, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that later today when Aaron gives us an update about what's going on with the state library and some of the funding things going on with revenue collections. So, all right.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Eric. All right, Tessa. Sweet.
All right, I am the technical committee chairperson, and basically what I do is get workshops put together and get people signed up for it, and then Michelle takes it from there and does a ton of good logistical stuff. But yeah, just trying to meet the needs of like any gaps in training or whatever we need across the state. Yeah.
Thank you. Michelle from Full Scope is not here yet. She's on her way. So I'm just move her to the bottom, and if she gets here before we're finished with this, I'll have her introduce herself. Nate.
Yeah, I'm Nate Wold, and I have been on the board as treasurer for the last 3 years. And my goal for this year, and especially in the next month, is to kind of put together a fiscally responsible budget, and one that benefits our membership the most and hopefully gets more students there. So yeah.
Thank you. So I'm Gail Jorgensen. I am the president, the acting president. This is my first official Magip board meeting. So thank you for when I fumble and for the prompts. Very much appreciated. I have a lot of goals for this year. I've spoken with all of you independently and have heard your ideas, and you all have some great ideas that you bring to the table, and I'm very much hoping that we can implement some of those ideas. Helen's got some amazing energy to bring to the table. So stoked about some of her ideas, and Jeff, thank you so much for your guidance and for the help with the conference. I know that you're going to do a stellar job. Nate, keeping us on track with the budget and not like going into debt. And reminding me that, oh yeah, we do have a budget. An acknowledgement to Hillary, who's done a great job. Thank you for GIS Day last year, all the work that you did on that and all the work that you do at the meetings. I read them. Well
Somebody does,
done.
right?
Yeah, thank you. And Megan, just want to acknowledge all the work that you've done over the years that you have not been formally acknowledged for. Really want to just lean into that and say thank you, because many of the things and the structures that we have in place were because of your leadership, even though you weren't on the board. So thank you. And looking forward to helping you maybe get some documentation for when you are able to step out of that role if you want to. But if you don't want to, that's okay too. To Mike, thank you for reading the agenda, reminding me of what the purpose of the agenda is, and for being willing to step up when Jeff had some responsibilities that he was unable to be to continue to be on the board. It's a lot of work, and
That it is.
so I would also like to say, I met with Eric Spangenberg yesterday, and one of the things that he recommended, thank you, Eric, is to learn about the history of Magip and the people that have built Magip. I'm actually probably the newest person in the room, even in the state. And I would also like to acknowledge that there's a huge gap, right? And learning about the history of what you have built is going to be one of my primary things that I work on this year. I've learned a lot, but I still know that I have a lot to go. Tessa, haven't forgotten you. Thank you for all the work that you did putting together an amazing technical session last year. The extra and over and above board work that you did to get QGIS to the state was pretty amazing, right? That's
I know.
really great.
The best. I texted him yesterday, I was like, it's snowing.
That's awesome. I know we also have some people online that I want to acknowledge. Rob, I know that you have been working on scholarships and grants for a very long time, and so appreciate the knowledge and history that you bring to the board. And Eric, dang, you bring so much to the table. I don't even know where to start, but I want to say thank you for all the years that you've spent both on MGF, formerly MLEF, and the Mega Board. Thank you. There is another person in the room that I'm going to acknowledge, Jenny Conley, because while she doesn't hold a formal board position, she actually does a lot of work to support Magip and some of the things that we've committed to in our community. So thank you, Jenny, for being here in the room. And for all those others that are online that, oh, Mike Item, thank you for your work the last 2 years. Really appreciate what you did. We're gonna actually be looking at the survey. So that was a huge leap, and we appreciate it. All right, one more thing, just really quickly with regard to my goals for the year. Having an amazing conference in 2025 and 2026, very high on my agenda, as it is for all of you. The cleanup of the Magip folders administratively, I think that's just something that falls on somebody who's willing to take the time to clean it up, which I think Hillary and Jeff and I have already talked about doing. One of the things that I've talked to all of you about is students and vendors, professional development. Those are things that are really high on my list. Making sure that we have a fiscally responsible budget that also will help to support the students is really high on my agenda. And then also, as Mike pointed out, filling the VP position. So the VP position is vacant. We're going to talk about it later, but that's very, very high on my agenda. And One other thing, and that is from all the people that I've listened to and talked to over the last couple of months, and also the last year, getting ready to move into the president position, is ways that we can bring members of the tribe into the community. I think that's going to be important over the next couple of years, and we're looking for ways that we can make that happen. We'll see what we can do, right? We can open the door and make the invitation. So that's the hope. Yeah, I think that covers most of it. And I will also say that on the list, we see vice president and that it's still vacant, working actively to try to get that filled. So yeah. And then today, Erin Fashaway will be joining us. I see that she's on the line. She has some things to talk about later today. And then we were hoping that we were going to have a tribe representative here, but that just didn't happen. So that's okay. Right. Thank you all. So let's move on. Wow, we're right on time to the old board business, which is the vice president position. Mike reached out to Matt Vlasic, who was the runner-up for the conference committee chair for possible interest. I also emailed him and I didn't hear anything. Mike, did you hear back from?
I didn't hear anything back. I had talked to Jason Danielson as well, and he knows Matt pretty well. And he reached out to him as well and didn't hear anything back from him.
Okay, all right. Hillary, can you tell us about the social media blast?
Yeah, so we sent out an email to maybe 6 past presidents, and we got testimonies from 4 or 5, Mike and Jeff for a couple. And then Alicia helped construct those into social media posts. So she's been doing like iterations of like either a testimony or just a social media post saying that we need a vice president position. And then anybody who's interested was going to email the board, and we've gotten 0 emails. So.
All right, so Jeff, thank you so much. So there have been a lot of questions about what it would take to appoint or vote in a new vice president. So you know what? I put the link on the, can you hit that section 6 of the Magip bylaws? Is it not a live link? I thought it was.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's Article 2, right? Yeah. So the biggest thing for me is if the vice president position is vacated, the board may appoint a new one amongst the at-large positions. But if the vice president was appointed by the board, the association membership shall elect a vice president and a president at the next election. So that what that means, if we are to appoint anyone amongst our membership, that appointed position will only stick for the 1 year, and essentially be so essentially a 6th position would then have to be elected next year. So our 5 normal ones, and then a president. So
Thank you. Yeah.
but I think the other option though is to go, if we do have one person in mind, could hold a special election and have that person be elected amongst our constituents. And then that person would stay in there for the 3 years, not just through the end of this term. So kind of talking about 2 different scenarios that we could possibly go. But since it's so early in the vice president position though, I think holding a special election could be amongst the possibilities. So.
Yeah, so just to say that again, so that everybody understands, there's 2 potential paths. Well, there's 3. One is that we don't have a vice president, right, for the year. The other path would be that we find a person for the vice president position, and the Magip board can appoint that person for the year. that would mean at the end of the year, when we're ready to do elections again, as Jeff stated, we would have to vote for a vice president and a president. The other option is if there is a person that comes to the table that is interested in doing the full 3-year term, we would put it out to the Magip membership. We would have an election, and then that person would be elected formally to the vice president position. They would move forward into the president position and then the past president position. So 3 potential different past ways to do that. So right now, just based on the other things that you've heard, there is a person that is considering the vice presidency in the role of the 1 year. And that person would not move into the presidency. They would just be interested in filling the role as the vice president. The positive thing about that is this person is actually a member of the tribe and has tribal connections, which is one of our goals for the year. And then one other thing that I'm pursuing, I have a meeting set up with our Esri tribal representative next week to talk to them and see if they have any ideas for a person that could come to Magip in a leadership role as vice president. And I have no idea how that's going to turn out, but I will definitely keep you posted. Any questions? Any questions from anybody who's on the Zoom meeting?
Who is this person? Or are you not willing to give the name out there?
I don't know that person. I haven't met that person yet, and I would be I'll let Tessa speak.
You haven't talked to him yet?
Yes.
I haven't talked to her yet about it either, but her name is Marshall Small. She's here in Bozeman, and yeah, I don't know what her feelings are. She's finishing up a PhD, so she's a little busy.
Yeah.
But she has said that she is interested in being the VP for 1 year.
She has really good tribal connections, so if we have a place for that, I don't know about VP yet though, so no,
Yeah.
not,
Okay.
Oh, so we don't have any for
Solid.
VP yet.
Right. That's
Okay.
correct.
but I don't think I don't know. I need to talk to her.
Okay.
I thought we were talking.
To be determined.
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah. TBD. Okay. All right. Michelle has joined us. Hello.
We've missed you. Hi.
We've actually gone through introductions. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell everybody who you are and what your role is and what your goal is for this next year, which.
Okay, everybody probably knows me, but I'm Michelle Quinn, and I am an administrator for Magip. And my goal would be just to continue to build relationships with you all and help you grow in the association.
Welcome. We're glad you made it safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
I
snow.
ran into some road, no snow, but
Okay.
different areas of road construction, but I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
this meeting to sneak up on me. I know. I'm like, oh, it's that time of year in Montana.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to some old business, which is about the budget, and it's funding board members' travel to events. And this was actually something that I pulled from the agenda. I don't remember much about this. Maybe Mike, you have some history.
This just came up because of, we've been talking about going to different events representing Magip, like Morals. I've gone twice now to the Morals conference. There is no, at the time right now, there's no Magip covering it or anything like that. So it was brought up that maybe that should change. I mean, we have been all talking about, well, we should do maps and we should do, is that maps? Was that the planning one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the planning one. Maybe Mako. You know, a lot of other conferences that we can, you know, just get everybody know that we're Mako, you know, kind of thing. But, you know, that's hard to do when you're not being covered for it, kind of thing. So this is why that that came up. And definitely was gonna be part of the discussion for the budget. So that was the reason for that.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely room in the budget for it. I think we should plan and kind of identify how many
Exactly.
traveling nights or
Yeah.
days we would need, and then we could plug a number in.
Yeah, like how many we want to send.
Yeah, because also coming up this year is the state legislative session, so
Yeah, that's
that
another
might be
thing.
another.
That's
thing to
another
include,
thing, yeah.
so.
Okay. What does that look like? Does that look like travel and food, and is it like a per diem?
Well,
compensation?
I don't know. I mean, I know it's Magip. We don't have a lot of money for this kind of thing. So I mean, sure, it would be all of it really. I guess that should be considered, but,
I think you were just doing it on your own dime, in the sense that.
I was never asking for anything. So yeah, I was just basically just doing it, either that or for like tomorrow's conference, I told work, I said, look, I got a conference to go to, so I had work help me out with that. Essentially they were fine with it, but I mean, technically it's not I wasn't there for Yellowstone County, even though I could have been, but at the time, that's how I got around with, that's how I had the county help me out with the expenses on that, but,
Marls is a billing, so we would at least have one representation that's local.
yeah, and that was always my thing too. I always personally thought there should be two people at the table. At a table, we could have it one person, but two people, one, so it's not so boring for one.
Right.
One being one of the top three. This is just my opinion. President, vice president, or past president, at least one of them, and then somebody that's close. Like you said, Marls is at Billings this year, so yeah, I obviously can go to that.
Does the Marls conference change locations?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah, it's
just like ours does?
Yeah.
not as drastically, but it does.
Yeah,
They're limited to like 3.
yeah, they've kind of been rotating between like Great Falls, Missoula, Butte, and now Billings. It's the first time I've seen Billings.
That's, yeah.
So
Okay.
Does Magip have a, like booth or something at
Yes.
Marls?
Well, it's not a booth. It's a table. We
So-
got a
so that-
runner and stuff.
So that was an agreement. So a few years ago, we agreed, we approached Marls and approached them with the proposal, but okay, if we provide you with an exhibit booth at our conference, would you do the same for us? And so it's essentially, we don't pay for it, they don't pay, so essentially it's an exchange.
You get a free tea of like 1 or 2 conference attendance.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, we get 2. Yeah, so that's another thing got to bring up too. I mean, because we don't have that agreement with MAPS or Mako or anything like that, so we would have to register. That would be another cost.
Or make
Or make an
more
agreement.
agreements.
Oh, right,
We have
exactly.
to.
No, exactly right.
Because on the membership survey, I know we'll talk about that in a minute, but I heard from a lot of the respondents that people wanted to diversify the sort of the fields, like engineering and surveying fields.
Can we go back to that agreement? So did Marls actually come to the
Yes.
mega
Yep.
conference?
Yes,
Did
they
they
did.
come?
Yeah.
Awesome, they had a table
Yep.
and that's cool. Okay, so that agreement worked. Is that a formal agreement that we have with them, or is that a handshake and?
It's-
I
Okay,
don't think it's written.
yeah, okay. What about maps?
I don't know of any other conversations with any other.
And their conference is coming up pretty soon.
And
It's-
what is
It's in
MAPS?
October. Montana Association of Planners.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's in
And-
Lewistown in October, so it's coming
Yes.
pretty soon.
And does that also travel?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that was like in Chico or Bozeman a couple years ago.
Oh, nice.
I
Okay.
believe
No, it
they're,
was in Butte. It was in Butte last year, and
Last year,
then you go
Billings.
Billings?
Yeah.
And then is it 2 days? Is it 4 days? What does that look like?
I have no idea.
Okay.
3-ish.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a contact at MAPS? I know we are planners probably. I'm not, who plans the
think-
MAPS conference?
We probably have an Andrew, because his,
Oh, right.
one of the other planners in Missoula County
Andrew Stickney?
helps, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and well, and
But,
at State Library, we've been an exhibitor the last
I
couple of
think,
years too.
I think
so-
one of the planners is for building. She's on the board actually.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, she was on the board or is on the board now still. She works for us now. She's not planning.
Okay, that's really great information. Does somebody want to reach out to somebody at MAPS and find out like about their board for their conference?
Yeah, I can reach out to
Okay.
the person I was talking about.
I think the MAS, Montana Archaeological Society, they do conferences every year too, so that might be something to look into. Just to open back up.
Is that MAS, Montana Association?
Archaeological
Archaeological
Society,
Okay, okay.
maybe don't. quote
Would
me
you
on
like
that,
to
but
look into that, Tessa, for us and find out
who's
what that
the-
looks like?
Yeah.
And if they're interested in GIS mappers, you can help them like.
At
figure-
least have like a table there, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, okay. I'd be interested in doing that. And then I have another one written, Mako, who's Mako?
That's the
Association of Counties.
counties. Yeah.
Oh, right, I should know that one. Where's that one at?
And that already happened, didn't it?
They do their annual and then they have a mid-year.
Oh,
Okay.
we don't need to do both.
No, probably not, but it would be nice to just like, in terms of this planning, think of it as being long-term as opposed to just what's happened this year, what's already passed. So some of the ideas that we're bringing out of this may not be implemented this year, but potentially next year might be able to bring it to the table again. And it'd be good to get those contacts.
So theirs is coming up in September 16th through 18th in Missoula.
Okay. Is there anybody that's interested in reaching out to them? Association of Counties? Does anybody know anybody?
Other than the commissioners that go there, that's all I know.
Reach out. I don't know anybody, but
Yeah, hold on just a second. Erin? She on still? Oh, she stepped off. Okay. Eric Spangenberg. Do you know anybody that's on the Montana Association of Counties, their conference planning committee?
I wouldn't know anyone on for Mako. I mean, I guess you could reach out to Eric. He's the director, Eric Bryson. He used to be I guess I could, if you have some information, I could reach out to him and find out what's going, if they'd be interested. I know Eric Bryson because he used to be the county's, Lewis Clark County's administrative officer before he took the job at Mako. So.
Is it Eric ERICH or ERIC?
ERIC Bryson.
BRYSON?
Yeah,
Okay.
just right off the Mako website. It's pretty easy to find his contact, I think.
Okay.
But I don't know if you want, or if you want to do it as president, to reach out and find out if there's anything, who might be planning their events. They may actually have, for all I know, on their website, they may have contact staff.
Okay.
Let's see, their events, about us, board of directors.
Okay, I can reach out to them. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I mean, we gotta think too, if they're gonna wanna be at our conference.
Well, and
Yeah,
that's,
who knows? I mean, I have no idea about that. Mako, yeah, I couldn't tell you if they'd want to have a representative come to GIS or not. So.
okay.
Yeah, because I think it's pretty expensive if we were to just go to Mako without having an agreement. I think it's pretty expensive to go just directly to Mako, but
Okay.
maybe they can cut some sort of like, nonprofit rate to us, but yeah, I guess without going into further with them, I don't think we know what that picture looks like. But I guess on the surface, if we were to expand outside of Marl's, I think MAPS is the perfect link for us, because I think they would have an interest, just on the surface of
Just
being at our conference.
Well,
I
and
just
the other
dropped
thing,
the Rachel website into chat right there.
okay,
Both of their contacts are on their webpage for the conference scale.
Okay,
It's in
good, thank you.
Missoula in September.
does anybody know if that changes? The Mako
They
conference,
do
does
move
it change? Okay,
Yeah.
same
Yeah,
as
it moves
us.
around.
Okay.
A lot.
Thank you. I think that's a great discussion. I just, like, kind of circling it back to the budget. Me, sounds like there is some flex in the budget to allow for this kind of spending. Can you tell us what that would look like?
Why
Yeah,
wasn't this last year then?
well, I mean, okay, so I think we're gonna have to like figure out how many nights
Yes,
and like
Yeah.
if we're paying for travel and food and registration, because then it might really add up. And
okay,
we might have to consider like, what kind of benefits would we get? Like, are we advertising the GeoCon there? And so would we get more participation or, yeah,
the return on investment.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So I think the action items on this is that there are people that are gonna reach out to these different organizations and find out if we can come up with an agreement. And then when we get to the budget, we can talk about what that budget, like, maybe it's not, we know we're gonna spend this much money on this, but we could have a bucket, maybe. Let's talk about that when we get to the budget, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, and then also like what kind of benefit does this have to our membership?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well,
Is there a benefit
and
to
you
our
know, with
membership?
legislation coming up, it's hard to project how many times we would be called upon to testimony. And you can testify in multiple different ways, but I think Mike made a couple trips over there. But you don't necessarily know if you'll be making 0 trips or 5 trips up to Helena, so it's hard to know. And Helena might be a day trip just for you, so that may be no big deal.
Yeah, I know that I will be in Helena for the July 11th meeting. That's already on my calendar. I've already gotten permission to attend that. And I do think it's different for every person. And I think that that's something that we need to consider when we look at the budget. So for me, in the role that I am here at the city, it's considered part of my leadership role to be the president of Magip and attending those kinds of conferences. So I have room in my budget to pay for that. I have a vehicle that's available to me, but I recognize that everybody at that table, that's sitting here at the table, doesn't have that. So, and that's something that we need to consider because there's always going to be a fairness component to it. And we want to make sure that when we make the decision, or if we make the decision to put these dollars into the budget, that they're allocated in a way that, to Nate's point, there is a return on the investment. I do think that our role as Magip is to our GIS membership. And when, to Helen's point, we've already seen in the survey that people are asking us to expand our reach so that it's more focused on maybe some other areas that it falls within our values. So let's keep our open mind about it and maybe think of some ways that we can put it into the budget, but in a way that the allocation is fair.
I mean, you see just with our membership, you know, we have crossover between the land surveying community and planning communities. Those are the two that I can think of that directly impact our GIS community. So having a booth or having some sort of presence at each of those conferences makes sense, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I do wonder if there's a way that we could also consider the local component. So maybe when we're considering what this looks like, if there's a local person that's on the Magip board, regardless as to whether they're the president, the VP, or the past president, that being being on the Magip board of directors is maybe what qualifies as allowing that person to attend that. And that may be different, right? Like that, it wouldn't include an overnight stay at a hotel. If we were able to create those agreements, it would not be a burden on our budget. So those are some other things that we could potentially consider. I would like to continue this discussion at our next meeting after everybody has had an opportunity to reach out to those other organizations, if everybody feels like that's Because I think right now we just don't have enough information. But I definitely want to also consider it in the budget as we're talking about the budget. Okay. Everybody agrees with that. So I'm gonna make.
Yeah, there's other events, I'm just gonna throw this out there.
Yeah.
There are other events that other, not board members for sure, but also other people may attend on behalf of Magip, like the poster judging at the colloquium. I know I've done the fair down here one year. I mean, the stuff that I've done like that has been local, but that's something else to think about as well. Outreach.
Yeah, I agree. And that was awesome. Jenny and I did the judging at the colloquium this year and it was really, yeah, you guys, yeah, it's an awesome event.
Yeah. Oh, and,
You
and,
get- yeah, you did it a couple times.
and Magip has done that for a pretty long time. I mean, they were doing that when I was going to school. So, you know, it's at least 10 plus years that they've been doing that. So.
But I know Stephen J traveled over and I know Mike traveled here to do it in the past, so that's another, something else to add in there.
And Jeff, one year you went to like an open or a public land stay in Billings?
Yeah, BLM.
Oh, we
Yeah,
did that
BLM.
too, yeah.
Yeah, that was just coming out of COVID. And I talked with Alan Armstrong. They plan on doing something potentially in the future like that. But yeah, that's another event that I think would be cool.
Yep, that was good.
Are we considering any conferences that might take place not in the state of Montana? I see benefit for having Magip having a presence as something like the ERISA Northwest User Group. I know they have a conference every year sometime in our region and just
Just be the expense though.
think it would be expensive, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe we can wheel and deal with them for to do a trade.
Yeah.
But just for us to
Yeah,
like, just
we
us
should go
to
to
travel there though, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's true.
Oh, with the Rissa.
I mean, probably would
I
be
mean,
within
unless
driving
it goes
distance
there,
if the
so.
conference was in Spokane or.
I would like to
Boise.
see ERISA have a table at Magip is where I'm
Yeah, yeah.
and I actually was talking with Kara Utter about that, cause she's pretty involved with the, ERISA, I think she's like.
She's on the
entering-
board.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
she's on the board this year and the planning committee for 2020, this year's conference in Maine, their big
Yep.
one,
Yeah.
so.
But we probably wouldn't be talking about their national conference, we'd probably be talking
Yeah,
about their Northern
talk about
Rockies
the
conference.
Local one, but I
Yeah.
might go to the national one,
Well,
so
the
I'll rep.
The
Magip
national one
while
does
I'm
something, I
there.
mean,
Yeah.
2 years
In
ago, it
Portland.
was
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, I don't
It
see,
wasn't Boise.
I don't see that circling back to Boise or
Yes,
Spokane for a
the
number of
hotel.
years, so that's my point.
I don't know about
Never
that.
But there's others that are close.
I better.
But yeah, I mean, we could wait till it gets closer, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the other thing with the Idaho conference is it's every other year. So it's like, they just had their conference, so they're not gonna have another one until 2027, so.
I think that Idaho has changed their structure for conferences and joined up with Northwestern ERISA. It's Northern Rockies ERISA, I think is what they're branded as now. And so they actually are traveling now. Tell me if I'm wrong, because that
But I
was
think it's
started,
still every even year though.
I don't think so. I think it's every year.
I can't remember.
Well, the Northwest Users Group
The
has.
the Northwest
Yeah,
Users
They have
Group.
one every.
They have one
year.
every
Right.
year.
Right, and I think that Idaho has moved into that.
Okay,
So
okay.
that they're a part of that,
Yeah.
right? And that would travel, so it's Idaho, Washington, Oregon, yeah. And I
Yeah,
think that's.
Northwest GIS is September of 2024.
September, so, and they had one last year, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Right around the same time.
East
Maybe
side of
that's-
Oregon.
Oregon, whatever.
Was there a lot of people there, maybe? 200?
Did you go to Boise?
It was in Yakima,
Oh, yeah.
That's the Northwest
Yeah.
one.
Oh, okay.
and it's, I think Seaside, Oregon is the one
Seaside, yeah,
coming up.
that's one, yeah.
And what
But
is
it comes
that
back to, but it comes
That's
back,
the Northwest GIS.
one? Okay,
but it comes back to Oregon, or comes back to Idaho very frequently though,
Yep.
so the proximity is still, you know, it's relatable.
I think that the ERISA conversation is a bigger conversation. And maybe you can talk about that during member development.
What did Cara say?
Well, she didn't, well, actually, I talked to her at the conference about, the work that she's doing and that she was coming into that
Mhm.
kind of new role on the board and hadn't really, floated the idea of should we trade booth spaces, but I think it might be I would love to see them at
I
Magip.
don't think, and the ERISA conferences, but, oh yeah, they do have these, yeah, okay. Yeah, they got them off in the corner somewhere.
And then Bob Cochran from our office, he went
Yeah,
last
he
year
went to
as
the,
well.
yeah.
And he was able to
Columbus
get their membership, like, price for the conference from Nina. So that big addressing component from it.
Yeah, I mean,
So I can
me,
definitely see the.
yeah, me and
the
my
want, the
address
desire.
coordinator has, we have membership and we are, Alyssa's going this year to Maine. I'm saving money by not going. That's quite a trip.
Mhm.
But yeah, I love the idea of trying to get Eureka more involved here.
Okay,
We do not have a local chapter. And splitting off from Idaho,
Yep.
they kept it.
yep, yeah, that's,
Because those were discussions a while back too,
yes. Mhm.
back in the day.
I was actually on the other side of the conversation.
Right.
I agree that Eureka, it would be great to have Eureka as part of our organization, so I think we need to consider that this year as well. Helen, how do you feel about heading that up? I feel like that's something
Yeah.
that's fallen in your wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, and Kara's an awesome resourse.
She's great. Yeah, we really connected at this last conference, so
Good.
I'd be happy.
Yeah, you did.
She's an instigator, that one.
She and I did the Eureka leadership training together in North Carolina. Yeah. It's awesome. I worked with her closely when I was in Idaho. Okay, any other discussion about the budget with regard to funding board members travel to events? And I'm gonna add on to that we also talked about other conferences that we could potentially be going to and having them attend ours. Okay,
I mean, the
so,
only reason for that is just to try to alleviate us paying for registration,
yeah.
trying to get a deal with them.
Well, I think that if we're having these conversations, they're having these conversations too. So I think that they, some boards may be open to it. So it's just worth the conversations, and it does sound like we have some contacts already within the group, which I think makes those conversations a lot easier. So, okay, we'll put that back on the agenda for July, so that those people that go and talk to those other organizations, I'll make sure that we have it set up on the agenda to speak to each one of them. And then as we move into the budget, we'll talk about the funding to get people to those events. All right, any other discussion? Okay, so let's talk about the 2024 strategic planning retreat. I call this an action item, but really it's a head count item. Although there are some things that we need to discuss. Can you bring that up, that link up?
Yeah.
Sure, I should have had those up for us next time. I'll do that.
Well, I think in the PDF or the Word to PDF transformation, I think.
It lost it.
Because I think the one you sent has the links.
Oh, has the light links. Okay, so a little bit of history about the strategic planning retreat. Maybe somebody knows how many years we've been doing the actual strategic planning retreat in person. Do you know that?
Probably like 2010.
Okay, so for a long time.
Yeah, it's going on over 10 years for sure.
Okay,
And then the only year that I think we had 2 years that yeah, 1 or 2 years. I think definitely in 2020, we did not have one. And I can't remember in 2021 if we were back yet, but.
so there have been different ways that we've planned this. In the past, we've sent out a survey, we've asked different people. It's very hard to coordinate the strategic planning event. We started talking about it, Michelle and I started talking about this like at our last strategic planning event, like how can we prepare in a better way for next year's strategic planning event. So made a decision to go ahead and book a place, put it out there for the board members that we knew that were going to be coming on, how they felt about it, looked at some dates. So we already have the El Western in Ennis, Montana booked. The dates are September 10th to the 11th. It would be great if we could get a head count And I really would like to discuss the budget and the food. And I think Michelle knows more about this than I do, so I'm gonna hand it over to her with regard to the actual space there, like how many rooms are available. I think we've sent it out.
There's the conference center.
There it is. We're gonna help you.
There's the conference
Cliff
center.
notes.
Yeah, so what we have contracted right now is, there's one cabin that sleeps 2 people, but it's separate bedrooms. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 singles. And then 2 more that sleep 2 adults, but separate bedrooms.
So 3 doubles and then
3 doubles,
6.
yes.
Good, that sounds fine, as long as you're under about 1,500, whatever that's what it was.
Yeah, the rooms are 107 apiece.
Yeah.
So that's what 107.
State rate.
And then with,
Perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, that works out nice.
and then with a full day conference center rental for that conference center, it's 300, and then a half day is 150. So the total with Montana lodging sales tax and Montana lodging facility fee, I don't know what that is. It's $1,854.
That's well under the budget, isn't it? I mean, that's not including the food, of course.
That does not include the food.
You're
Doesn't
right.
include the food, but they have a barbecue and picnic tables, I think, and kitchen area. So she said if we wanted to,
Well, we're assuming that it's gonna be nice and warm in September.
right,
Could be.
Right.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe.
Well, I think I'd like to look at both scenarios because they do have a lovely barbecue area. And to Michelle's point, they do have a kitchen, so we could do some in-house cooking, but there's also the option to go into Ennis. Nate, can you tell me, like, based on just that 1854, what was budgeted for it?
Yeah, so the past 3 years, we've budgeted $1,500 per year for lodging at the retreat.
does that include the
Um,
meeting space too?
That includes the meeting space.
No.
And so we've already made a half deposit for this amount. So in a way, it's half of it's included in this year. And
Oh, so we paid
we
for
only
part
have,
of out of this year.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's actually pretty good, I think. Does that,
yeah.
And
And so,
the other thing to consider real quick, Nate, is this is estimating 12 people.
thank you.
So that would be 12. So if there's less than 12 people, that 1,800 will
let's go down.
go down,
Okay.
just so you know. Yeah.
Is there a certain date we have to make that adjustment or change?
I mean,
I think
we're
it's,
talking what, $300 here, so,
Yeah,
I mean, what's the problem? I think that's good, I think that's fell right into the budget, really. And how much do we have for food?
For food, we budget $750
You know,
per
so-
year. And so that includes food at this retreat and then our board meeting in January and then our meal. today.
Oh, it's that way.
So,
Oh, okay.
okay, so we prepaid out of this budget, so that would mean that we would have an additional about $900 in next year's budget that we could use for food.
Yep.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so that actually puts us slightly ahead, even though we're paying slightly more for lodging.
and it's 14-day cancellation.
Okay,
For cancellation, notice must be given 14 days for a refund of your deposit, less a $25 processing fee.
Sounds great.
excellent. Does anybody have any?
I make that look the way in the pictures, right?
It's really beautiful.
But I'm sure
The
it's
water
nice.
wheel, I'm like, ooh.
It's lovely.
Oh, they have a
Yeah,
video.
we had it out at the Double Arrow in City Lake when I was president. We rented this huge cabin.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah, that's
something to
nice.
consider
That's
for next year. Yeah,
Yeah,
so if you're a fisher
Well,
person, bring your,
VP's position to figure that out.
Yep,
next year.
yep, so whoever wants to be the VP gets to decide
Yeah.
where we're going on our.
But that one was
strategic
that
planning
one was a group vote, but yeah, group
Was it?
votes are tough because
Yeah.
it's a quick turnaround. But
Yeah,
typically though, these places don't have a lot going on.
Yeah.
I think at that time we actually had it at the end of September and we did it over Sunday, Monday. So the retreat has also flexed kind of the days as well, so just kind of depends.
Yeah, and I would say that one of the challenges with this retreat is making sure that it's early enough that we can get some real, well, it's not too late, so we can actually get some planning done early enough that we could get the travel in, but past the Memorial Day, there's like all these considerations,
Yeah,
and getting it on everybody's
Yeah.
calendars.
I know Jenny did something interesting too when she was president. They did it in June, but you gotta start planning for it probably in the
Now.
winter.
Yeah.
The winter months really probably back then, but yeah. now.
Yeah. It is a challenge to get it coordinated, but I hope everybody is happy with the Western location. The venue looks like it's gonna be really cool. It sounds like we have money for food. So I would like to talk about the food because I think based on the previous agendas, we start at 10 o'clock and then go until 5, and then we do a dinner. And then we have breakfast, and then we go until like 2.
Do they don't have a restaurant on site, do they?
I do not believe that they do. But they do have restaurants in Ennis.
Yeah, what we did for breakfast was just bring stuff in.
Okay,
I think we had a big tray of, pastries and fruit and vegetables and stuff for everybody
Okay.
to just nitpick. And of course, coffee.
I feel like we
Okay.
have just like a little restaurant and bar.
But
Okay.
that's what we did at mine. And I
okay,
believe that's what,
Red
because we
Lodge.
had the cabin, the Red Lodge is great.
Yeah, Red Lodge was awesome.
But the cabin, one that we had at Sealy Lake, everybody just brought food and stuff and we just cooked there.
And then we ordered pizza.
We ordered
And we
pizza.
ordered pizza, yeah.
Yeah, we had thought about going down to the dining.
Well, we did that for
Well,
lunch.
yeah, for lunch out as we're going out,
Mhm.
but it was gonna be too much for dinner because, because it would have been probably a 2-hour
Right.
adventure down there and ordering and eating.
Oh, we went to the restaurant that was in that area. We did it for lunch.
Yeah, the restaurant that's at the Double Arrow.
Yeah.
After we were going out though, so it was after we did all the business, we went to lunch. And then,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay.
okay, so can I ask, the way that I'm seeing the days kind of built out is that we would need to provide lunch on the first day, dinner on the second day, breakfast on the third day, lunch on the fourth day, or sorry,
Fourth
lunch
day.
on the second day, breakfast on the second day, and lunch on the third day.
There's just
Oh,
two meals,
just
really.
2 days.
it's just 2 days.
Okay.
So it's lunch and dinner the first day,
And then breakfast and
Okay,
lunch.
and then
does
breakfast
S work
next
right
day.
there?
Okay, that's how I just said it wrong.
Yeah, and
I'm right,
I mean,
1,
you
2,
don't
3,
have
4.
you don't-
4 days planning event.
Yeah, we don't have to pay for the lunch on the second day. At 2 o'clock, people just leave, or if you want to have a going away lunch, I guess you can do that, but that's an optional one.
When do people leave on the second day?
It's whenever the meeting's done, usually just around 2 o'clock.
Okay,
And then the debate is, and then also the other debate is whether or not have a board meeting there too, so.
Right.
okay,
Cause like what I told you, my phone
yeah,
call when I've experienced over the few years that I've been on the board is the board meeting. Typically we've been talking about board business the entire time there, and it's just kind of a rush job. You may have just one if you have like assistance to approve, or I don't think we need to be approving your budget at that late, but you had some sort of action items that you have to quickly get done. I could see, but since it falls out of our typical window, we could option to have a virtual remote board meeting the next week.
could we look at the calendar, because I think, Mike, didn't you already set up the board
I set up
meeting
the calendar,
for
sure.
September?
Yeah, I just put,
Okay.
I put the strategic planning meeting as our board meeting. Because
Okay.
generally, like Jeff said, we had the board meeting at the end of our strategic planning session, but like Jeff said it too, there's nothing really to do. We've been talking board stuff for 2 days, so
Okay.
it's just a quick run through of everybody giving updates, which have already happened, so they're like, yeah, nothing new to say.
Yeah.
And then if anybody else wants to chime in, we got some members on the call, and they can chime in, but
We
It's-
could
it's
also choose to not have a formal board meeting too, like maybe let's just record one of the last sessions at the retreat, invite some people that want to join us and call it good, but maybe like the time when we're reviewing goals or something like that, that might be a good, like,
Right.
public facing
Right.
I think when we did up in Sealy, like we recorded the entire thing, other than the breakouts, because it would have been hard because we were in different areas of the cabins.
Right.
But yeah, you could record the whole thing and have it fully broadcast or upload the recording later. I think that's what we did. We just had like the board meeting more public facing.
Michelle, do you remember if they have Wi-Fi? I feel like they're fully Wi-Fi capable.
They do.
Okay. Okay, so that's a question that we should probably discuss is how we're gonna record that. If we're gonna record it for the whole session or,
I would do that.
okay.
I
so
could
the
definitely
last
see
half
like the goals,
hour-
the goals and objectives, like the review of the work, the outline,
work plan
the work
and
outline of the
achievement.
work plan. I think that would be a very good session to record.
I mean, that's just all how you wanna set up the agenda then too.
But yeah, without looking at the agenda, I would say that would be a perfect one to broadcast is the work session or the work plan.
Would that be the last part of the agenda?
Well, that's up to you.
You can do whatever you want, yeah. I would recommend just going back through like multiple different, because there's been different iterations of doing team building exercises, just different ways of interacting with the board. So yeah, I would just encourage you to go back and doing previous,
Okay,
and if you liked an idea, bring it forward to this one. So,
okay, okay. And we don't have to formalize it today. Okay, Michelle, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna say, and keep in mind the MAPS conference is the few days before.
Okay.
The day before,
Yep,
and the Marl's conference is the week after.
of course it is. Okay, so when we come to the June or the July meeting, we wanna have that
No,
like
that's
wrapped
Mako.
up.
Never
Oh,
mind.
that's Mako, yeah.
That's Mako.
Marls
Mako.
won't be until
And
February.
map
Yeah,
is
okay.
October.
And
Okay.
map, and the map is October 7th to the 9th. You're right. I had my months wrong. So, yikes.
No, that's
It's still
okay.
gonna
It
feel
was
very
Mako, it was the
cramped.
Mako conference. I was thinking of that, but
Yeah.
that seemed like the least on your list, so.
Yeah, and actually that's kind of risen in my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
And it's in Missouri.
Okay, so if everybody, I guess I'd like to go back to the food. How do you all feel about a barbecue there? Which would mean us coordinating food and bringing it in, which we can make happen, versus going into NS to have dinner. Do you prefer to like stay all together and hang out by the water there? It's a pretty cool venue, although I will say that the highway goes right in front of it, right?
That's what we chose to do in Sealy too, because we wanted to, because we did
Enjoy the space.
that, yeah, so in the backyard, I think I had a couple people bring cornhole sets. We just ordered pizza and just continued to socialize, throw cornhole and have some pizza. So there is that option too. I mean, that at least you stay in that space and you can kind of continue. I mean, when you go out, it's just kind of a different atmosphere,
Okay,
different type of socializing.
so here's what I'll do based on the feedback that you've given me today. I'm gonna find out about potentially having box lunches brought in from one of the restaurants locally for lunch. And then for dinner, we could, I don't know, bring some steak and some barbecue and some potato salad or whatever. We'll talk
Costco
about
run.
that. And then, right?
Costco run.
So
bring
the
a
barbecue
cooler.
for the meal for socializing in the evening, with some kind of a backup plan in the event that it rains. So we may have to cook steaks in the oven, or maybe we'll just get lasagnas and cook them. I don't know. I'll make sure that I'll look into that. And then breakfast, we'll make sure that we handle that. That's Costco. I think that's pretty easy. Coffee, we'll make sure that we get that handled. And then some kind of lunch, which may be like a platter or something, like some meat trays with crackers and fruit and easy stuff that people can, that we can all finish up our business. If that sounds okay to you guys, I'll get some feedback from the El
I can
Western.
help you.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
For all the work you've
I
done.
can help you with that.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And then I think we're good with the budget. Okay, and then the only other thing that I would like to do is get a potential head count. So it is September 10th to 11th. It's already on the calendar, so that's not negotiable. If you already have an event that you know you're not going to be able to attend, let us know. So anybody in the room at this point not able to attend?
I have an event September 11th. It's an all staff DNRC meeting,
Okay.
and we're going to a retreat in
Okay.
Anaconda. So
So you would need to leave. What time do you have to be there?
8 in the morning.
Okay, so you won't
could
be
be
there. for
there.
the second-
Yeah, I could be there September 10th, but
Okay.
not 11th. And that, yeah,
So you won't spend the night?
correct.
Or
I
you will?
would.
The night
Okay.
of the 10th?
Okay,
I just need to send them a master list, Gail, so
Okay.
once we know, as long as I know everybody's
Make it
coming.
better. What, you want to see this?
I'm not sure. I think is that fair? Is there nothing
Rob
on there?
and Eric,
Well,
will you
it's
be able to
close.
join us
Okay.
for the
That's what we have our staff.
2024 strategic planning retreat in Western, at the Western in Annis, Montana on September 10th and 11th,
Just one night.
just one night. Right.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
far that sounds good.
I'll have to get back to you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Okay, so.
But either, if everybody comes, we only need 11. We would only have 11. Right?
I think that's the count I've got. 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay.
So we would need 11.
Did Eric say he was coming?
I mean, that'd be-
Eric Spangen, he said that he was going to get back with me. So it could potentially just be 10.
Does Andrew come to these?
No.
Generally, no.
I don't think he's on board.
And he was planning on attending today, but he's actually on vacation and he was gonna remote in and I said, you're on vacation. You don't have to remote in. Although he may show up.
Does Alicia come?
She showed up for a little bit.
Yeah.
She drove
Maybe.
over for the day in
Yeah.
Anaconda. That's up to
Oh.
you guys. Yeah.
Is she in Montana? I didn't know that. For
She
some
is
reason.
now, yeah,
Oh.
that's right.
Yeah, she moved
She
here.
moved earlier, was it earlier this year or last year?
Last year, I think.
God, I feel like they've been here for a long time. I think it was last year.
Where did she move from?
Georgia.
Georgia. Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought she was in the South.
They're both from Georgia and then they lived in Montana for a long time and then they moved back to Georgia and now they're back in
Oh my
Montana.
goodness.
Where is she in Montana?
Missoula.
In Missoula. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we may have an extra space depending on some
Yeah.
of the others, so that may work out. Okay. All right. Any other questions, concerns about the strategic planning event that's going to be in Ennis at the Western? Anybody a good barbecuer? Maybe we want to have food delivered.
I think we could probably.
Can we figure it
I think
out?
we could probably
Okay.
throw some burgers on the grill. I think
Burgers, I was thinking steaks.
That too, that too.
Okay, all right, so the next thing on the agenda is the review of the survey results.
Do you know if that's on the drive?
What's that? Oh, the survey results. They are actually, the
That's
survey
on 1, 2,
results.
3.
Yeah, it's on survey 1, 2, 3, so you'll have to open the document that has, do you know the URL off the top of your head? The survey 1, 2, 3, or the login?
No, I think I did export the results to tie to the minutes once though.
Oh, was it for the
Just
meeting
survey 1,
in
2, 3.
April? The conference meeting? Because that's when Mike went over the survey, or was it the one before that?
April, probably.
Do you know the password?
Did you export it or no?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
then I
you did,
just-
cause I
yeah.
remember I then like took a look at it and played with spreadsheet.
Yeah, because I was being lazy, I didn't want to type the whole thing. So.
Okay, this is lessons learned. There will be an agenda packet moving forward.
Let's see where I put them.
You wanted to share it?
Yeah. Board documents.
We're a little bit over time. That's okay. Talk faster.
Well, we could have just a truncated discussion of this and then maybe have an executive summary, like someone actually go through the results and actually just comb through what stands out to them.
Well, that's what
And
we
that-
did already at the conference.
We did, but nobody really had an opportunity to comment on it. It was just a presentation of what the survey results were.
Yeah.
And I actually would like to spend more time on it, but Helen, since the survey results, I think really are gonna kind of fall into your purview, do you wanna take a look at the at the survey 1, 2, 3 results and put together maybe some action items for the year that we can present at next?
Yes, I
Okay,
actually did
Okay.
review the results and I
Okay.
took a bunch of notes on them.
do you have
want
them
me
to share with you? Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that.
I don't know.
Let's just spend, if we can, just spend 5 minutes on it and then we'll get back
Can
on.
you, is there a way for you to log into the Zoom so that you share your screen?
Oh, yeah. So it wasn't-
So if you have the agenda, just click on the link. I'll let you-
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah, just go ahead.
satisfaction survey.
I'll let you.
Unless you wanna share the.
I know, I can't remember.
It's
those.
caps,
don't.
MAG.
Oh, it's,
I don't know if my screen share is gonna be like all that, or it's gonna be all that beneficial, because I was just looking at my like notes in my
Can you-
OneNote.
do you want me to share?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
it's not
maybe
yet.
that's-
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's on the.
Gone now.
I still have PTSD from when we had we got Zoom bombed one time. I was on.
So yeah, I did review this one in close detail because I was very excited about the new position. And what I looked at in particular actually were a lot of the comments, specifically how can we expand our membership. There were a number of responses in that. Maybe if you close that participant box.
There we go. All right.
You can even hit the dot on your,
This.
I was thinking actually on the internet browser you can do it, but yeah.
I think 150 is too much.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's about as good.
So my specific notes were on a couple of the questions, but it seems like diversifying some of the content beyond government was a pretty common theme. So maybe getting engineering firms or comments about bringing folks from Onyx or other private sector types of organizations. I think that overlaps with
Maybe.
what we were just talking about with maybe.
The only thing you have to be careful with the private is to make sure to tell them, hey, this is not.
It's not
This is
marketing.
not your time to market or a sales pitch. It's more for education.
Yeah. So, I think those were some of the messages I took away, as well as potentially hosting more technical talks and workshops outside of the conference to, I think, again, provide some further opportunities. I do think I saw that open source comment from a number of different kind of comments, especially the one related to the SIGs, which we're going to talk about language for that in a little bit. So yeah, I just kind of looked especially at a lot of the comments that I thought were really helpful, some of which were kind of directly in conflict with each other, but take it all with a grain of salt. But one of the ones that I thought was really interesting, since we just talked about it, was organizations we should partner with or consider partnering with. We already talked about Marls, and that came up a number of responses, as well as Mako. I don't know what MLCT.
Well, that Nature Conservancy, I don't know if we've ever had any representation there, or it's been a long time. They do have a lot of GIS staff.
Yeah, they do actually. It's in the previous career. I think I worked on a project with Drought Unlimited and did a bunch of GIS work for them for a reclamation project.
And MLCT is the League of Cities and Towns.
Okay, so yeah, that I saw, Marl's a bunch of times, Urissa, other sorts of organizations. Somewhere in there I saw a mention of fish, wildlife, and parks. I don't know, are we doing any outreach to some of these other kind of government agencies beyond our sort of city, county, core group?
They know about our conference.
Yeah,
They just don't.
they just don't.
We
come.
had a lot of DNRC people there
Okay.
this year that I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah.
I thought you were the only one.
There were like some people from regional offices. I
Oh,
think,
okay.
Well, there was
just
a-
not
there was-
the states, yeah.
There was the typical DNRC folks in the GIS office that were not there, which I'm sure they will be at. Helen.
I think that this is a subject that we could spend more time on, especially at the strategic planning event. I think there is a lot of concern about not having people outside of local government. It felt very local government heavy. And I think that there are a lot of great ideas from all the people in the room here about ways that we can pull in people
Yeah.
from other walks and like forms of government, right? I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that we can do.
Because we have a lot of private sector
Yeah.
amongst our membership, but not all of them speak at our conference.
Yes.
So it may be in more the direction of, being more solicit with our talks. Don't take everything that comes in, but be
Yes.
more direct, like, hey, we want Nature Conservancy or whoever to talk.
Yes.
Like, we're interested in what you have to say.
Yeah, and the feedback that I've gotten from many of you as we've had our private conversations is that the hope that this year and in the future is that we bring a level of professionalism to the conferences and to Magip. And that may include modifying our agenda and our schedule. And that may happen anyway, depending on the venue that we choose, but also directly soliciting people that we know are working on a really great topic that is of value to the GIS and Montana community. So I think that that's definitely something that we need to spend more time on, and appreciate the feedback that we got from the survey and from other people in the room, because the people in the room have the same feedback.
I know Marl's, they usually just have 2 talks going on at the same time. But, they rarely take, presentations just from the membership. And I think they're wanting to, get back to more of that. So, because State Library, we've had one every year the last 2 years.
Mhm.
But typically their presentation structure are the ones that they solicited. They bring that person in to specifically talk about a topic.
Rob's got his hand raised.
So
Rob?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Gail. I think that's well put. And I just want to follow up on that. And I think it ties into this whole notion of, cross-pollination with the other organizations. From where I'm coming from on that thought is, what are the expected outcomes and, potentially like deliverables that would occur from us going to other conferences and them coming to our conferences? I mean, do we just sit there and breathe the air? Or, are there presentations being given? That's kind of more of what I see as a benefit to these kinds of things. And I think, so from our point, we need to put something together that we would present at other conferences. And then when we invite people to attend our conferences, we should invite them to give a talk of some sort to sort of deliver a message
I like
external.
that.
well, I think many of them do though, but it's usually like, we don't prompt them to, which we probably should.
No, but I say we do prompt them to. Otherwise, just sitting
Exactly,
at a table, that's not like that helpful.
Like
That's-
like
that's hard.
Esri typically comes, like they used to give talks, but they rarely have the last couple of years. So
Well, we've told them not to sell the product.
Well, and that's part of the reciprocal reciprocity of it, right? Like it's part of the partnership, like they get a speaking spot or something. But then that would be, on the flip side, you all would have the opportunity to do that at their conference as well. So I would like,
I actually would like to have a show of hands of who uses Esri products at your organization. All right, so just FYI, Esri supports us, we support them, we learn from them, they learn from us. That's the way it works. So if we would like them to come and speak, we invite them and they will come. So
Well, that's the other thing too. I mean, we can get all the voice out there. We probably should do more of that. But I mean, we can't grab their hands and say, hey, get your ass over here. I mean, it's up to them. It's up to anybody. I'm not talking about just Ezra. I'm talking about anybody. I mean, we can go and say, hey, look, come to our conference. We want you to speak. You got a great thing here. If they don't want to come,
I don't
there's
disagree
nothing
with that.
we can't do anything more about that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I do actually believe that we are in a shift in the way that we communicate. And I do think that COVID did, if you want to call it damage, regarding our relationships. I think that when we have these kinds of conferences, it's bringing people together, and that we as the board and as the conference planning committee need to build those relationships. And the conversations that I've had with all of you, very pointed questions about the relationships, specifically with the schools. And I do think that there have been people that, and I'm trying to remember who it was that I was speaking with, that mentioned that we very much live in a world in Magip where there's a pendulum, right? It's a shifting of the people that come to the board and invest their time, their valuable time, but they also bring those relationships to our organization. And I do believe that some of those relationships have faltered because of COVID, and that to rebuild those relationships, it involves conversations. Yeah. And those conversations of like literally, I don't know, have a coffee, call a person, ask them. And I very much am one of those people that likes to be invited to come to the table. A personal invitation can go a really long way. And I do agree with you that you can't make people come, but you certainly can open the door for them and invite them. So I think that we all should be open to those kinds of conversations in this coming year about how do we rebuild these relationships that may have faltered. Because I think that there's a lot of relationships that are still there, but maybe somebody has shifted to a new position, but they know the person, or they're in a position where they're teaching a class and can talk about our organization and invite people in. So
we may have to do that with Fish Life Wildlife Parks.
Yeah.
Just reach out like, hey, I know you're all doing some great things. We'd love to see you at the conference and present on some of those things.
Yeah, and I do think that if you're reading the newspaper and you're seeing things in the newspaper that are specific to our kind of work, be open to knowing who the person is that's doing that work and saying, hey, this would make a great presentation. And I think that sometimes we just make the assumption that they already know that they're invited, and maybe we shouldn't make that assumption. Maybe we should be open to it.
I think that membership spotlight would really help us identify projects too.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Like gateway to, hey,
yeah,
this is a quick blurb, but maybe you could talk more about this on the conference.
Yeah, I love that. So that's something that we haven't talked about, and we're way off topic, and we're way off of the
and Rob does have his hand raised too.
Rob?
Yeah, and if you want to move on, I appreciate that. But I think along the lines of what we just touched on there, and I think you just started to say it towards the end, I think this goes towards building our program for the conference, for the presentations that we have. That what we've been doing is just putting out a call for presentations, and and we get some that way. and then we put out another call because we didn't get enough. And then we kind of finalized the program. I think maybe going into the conference in order to, the talks, that's why, I mean, I guess the talks are about half the reason why people are at the conference, but, just to increase the diversity of talks on topics and depth of material. Reaching out, especially to our different state agencies about the relevant work that they're doing, and those could be, I'm partial to the natural resources, and we have several of those agencies, but other agencies too, like Department of Revenue and things of that nature. They're all doing GIS work, or all of them are doing work that's supported by GIS. And bringing that in, I think that is an important thing that Magip can do, and it would increase the diversity and standard of offerings that we have. So that's a lot of work. That takes dedicated outreach, but I think that's the way to elevate the level of performance that we would be seeing at the conference, and I think that would increase and add to the points being made in the survey here. Anyway, that's a lot. It's a big job, I understand, but
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else online that would like to speak? I saw that there was a comment in the chat. Oh, Eric. Montana counties. Okay, thank you for that, Eric. Awesome. All right. I really wanted to spend more time on the review, the survey results. And I think that moving forward, Helen, I still think it would be really great if at the next meeting. So we'll add that also to have more follow-up on that, because there was one line there. It was like, hey, I think we should do ... And it was one line. It was like professionalism, project management, and tribal. Like that's like one line from the survey, and it would be really nice if we could kind of drill into that a little bit more. But let's move on. New board business, and it is 11:33, so we're about 25 minutes over. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, and we can if you guys want to, but SIG versus user group versus working group. Do you need to be a Magip member?
I think before we did that, we were gonna do the request for assistance.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Request for assistance. Thank you. So there was a request for assistance from Erin Fashaway, and we had sent out a survey. Everybody didn't respond, so like to put that to a vote. Yeah, does everybody understand what the request for assistance was? It was for 500. There was a concern that request was over what we normally would pay for a request for assistance, which I think we have said is generally 200. But we felt like because the request is a valid request, and given some of the things going on at the Montana State Library with their budget, that we would increase it to $250. Nate, do you have any concerns about that request for assistance based on our budget right now?
I do not. And is the date of this meetup, is that in July?
It is in July.
Okay, so it would come from our FY25 budget. And just to give everyone some background, we have $478 left in our meetup this year. So
Dumb question, because I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but can we transfer that over to the next year's budget?
I was just gonna ask the same question.
let's see, why not?
I mean, could we just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we would just be forwarding the money.
So
Well, I don't know.
would we increase our budget amount for meetups next year?
I think
by that
so.
amount?
I think so. So it would be actually taking it out of this year's budget and then leaving our next year's budget at the full amount.
Well,
Does that
I mean,
make
if,
sense?
do we need to do that? Because, I mean, we still 400, 500 in the plus already. I mean,
Yeah.
do we need, I mean, granted, this will be coming out of next year's budget, but I mean, so this is an extra meetup, but
What's our budget for next year's meetups?
750, right?
1,500
Oh,
for me.
1,500, that's what our normal.
Correct.
I think,
Yeah, so
I think that's fine.
I think we're
honestly.
still fine. I mean,
Yeah,
we
'cause
really
you-
don't need to transfer.
Cause you're gonna have plus and minuses pretty much for every budget item every year. almost.
Yeah,
Trying
so-
to check out of this year's budget.
I
So-
mean, we're still 400 plus.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, we
mean,
should have enough next
We should
year.
have enough next year for the
Okay.
meetups and stuff.
Okay,
So I don't see any problem with it, but I think 500 is too much.
Yeah, and come time at the end of the fiscal year next year, you know, if we see gaps or, you know, surpluses in other budget line items, there's ways of, you know, moving money around, so.
This is not an original idea, but what if we, wrote the check from this year's budget? And then,
Well, it's usually a reimbursement.
yeah, it's a
Mhm.
reimbursement,
'Cause you don't
so
know,
we
you
receive
don't
the
know
receipts.
you know, cause someone could request 250, let's say they only spent, you know, 190, but we wouldn't cut the full 250, we would cut the 190.
I mean, does she have a reason why it's 500? I mean, why did she request that much?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I wouldn't see any need that they would need $500.
No, I
you know,
agree.
And it's above,
Yeah.
way above what we give everyone else. So
Exactly.
I would
And-
say 2 to 250 is probably gonna be the window.
Yeah. And just reading the request, it was kind of unclear what the money would be used for. I'm assuming it's for beverages at an establishment, but
Mhm.
that wasn't clear.
I mean, per our request, I mean, we we need pictures. And,
Yeah.
You know, what's going on with the, you know, what she's planning on doing with it, and have pictures and have a little write-up showing, you know, what she's using the money for.
Do we have any restrictions about purchasing alcohol?
No.
So, I think that the $250 request is, I think that's a good number based on the information that we got. So, if we can take a vote,
Yeah, I'll motion for the 250.
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Alice? Was there a nay?
Yeah, that was me. I just wonder, I mean, it's fine, sort of, but why go above and beyond? You know, if our limit's 200, why go to 250? What's the
Yeah,
justification?
Well,
I
it,
could-
it,
I mean,
within the
there-
language of our request for assistance, it would require a board vote if it's above 200.
Yes,
So, I mean, it's within our discretion to approve even the full 500 if we want.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's a Rob's point. I mean, there's not much reason why. I mean, she requested 500. I mean, why are we doing the 250? Are we helping them out with an extra $50?
Yeah, I mean, Eric, maybe you could shed some light on it. You know, I mean, this is a joint venture between us and the council, and, you know, having been on the council, I also see the council has deeper
Yeah.
pockets than we do. So
I don't recall I think it's just for a gathering, because we're doing an all-day meeting. I just think it's just to have more people be involved later in the evening, I suppose. I don't recall the rationale behind it, to be honest with you. So I wish she is still on the phone line here, so she could
She's
have.
just, I think Aaron just joined.
Okay, maybe she can explain again.
Erin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm back.
Hi there. Hey,
The
we're just
meetup,
doing
the meetup
a motion
request.
to approve your request for assistance. And there's some questions about the higher dollar amount than what we would normally approve.
Okay,
Could you give us some additional information?
sure. Well, I don't have my notes from the last one we did. What was that? God, I think it was 300, Nate. Can you confirm that?
Aaron, the real question at hand is that our standard issue for meetup is $200. that's what we tend to give out to people, and that's what we have budgeted, and that supports a certain number of meetups.
Got it.
So, so your request you may not have been aware of that, and you put in what you thought was a reasonable request, but it's 2.5 times higher than what we tend to give out. So, we kind of, that would reduce the number of other meetups we can support, and there's not necessarily inclined to do that. So we want to support the meetup, but probably would be most appropriate at the rate that we normally reimburse. Would that work?
Sure. Yeah, I guess first of all, that is not documented anywhere. And I believe we got more than that last time. So just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that. And I just recall, I wasn't sure exactly, I'm sorry, I do not have the my former notes with me on the last one. But we were going to do it at a brewery, and to ensure that I guess at least everybody got a beer, along with being able to leave the tip, or the I did it with 10 Mile Creek Brewery last time, and they were able to give out these tokens. And so it's just to ensure everybody at least gets one beer. But I understand that there's a limit. And I don't think I was going to plan on any kind of food. But knowing the council members, travel time schedules, we were going to try to do it the day before the council meeting. I know I put 2 different days on there because I wasn't sure what would work best. And so now I'm going to shoot for the night of the 10th.
That's the night before the July 11th meeting.
That is correct. Yeah. Yep.
Do you have an idea of how many people are going to be attending, Erin?
I think the last one we hosted, there was about 30 members.
Are you talking about the one that it was when Esri was in town?
Yeah. Yeah. That
And
is
I just
correct.
found the receipt, and it was 250 that we approved.
Oh, 250. Okay, cool. Yeah. I think it was 30 to 40 members last time.
Yeah, because it was right after our board meeting, and we had the board meeting here, and then I shot up there with Jeff Sprock.
Yeah. I totally understand that it's, that there's a limit. That's totally understandable. So we can make do for sure.
I have a question. So procedurally, we've already taken a vote, and we've had
Yeah.
at 250, and only one person said nay. Do we need to have 100% consensus to
No,
approve that?
it's
Okay.
majority.
Okay, so the majority has approved it at
Yeah.
$250.
Yes,
So I think that we should
Yeah.
say that it's approved at $250, and note that Rob had expressed concern about the overage.
Well, and just to express too, that 500 is technically is not outside of the policy. It's just
Right.
outside of,
The
it's just
normal
outside
amount.
of the kind of the internal policy of pushing a request through. So that's 200, which typically would push through within 5 business days.
Right.
And if
Come up here.
if none of us commented,
Right.
so, but because it was above 200, that required a board vote. So that's why we're deliberating.
Yeah. Okay. Do we need to do any action on that?
No, it's approved.
No, we already
Okay.
approved it.
Okay.
I think that's fine because we did it 250 last time,
Okay,
but
Yeah.
I think we did lower it after we approved it last. I think it
Correct.
was 250 last couple years, and then we lowered it to 200. I think that was after.
Yeah, so that policy, that kind of that internal policy, just so we're not getting 200, all these different requests and having to do separate votes. But I think to Erin's point, though, I think we do need to make it more clear on that request for assistance with form, but like, hey, we typically approve For 200, that's our.
It's on
Is
there.
it?
I read
It
it.
is on
Yeah,
there,
I
but
read
I
it.
believe it's a little hard to find.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
we should look
so-
at that
Yeah,
again.
we
That,
will
that form
clear
is,
that up.
that form could use some reworking, so.
Yeah.
And then
there-
obviously a link to our policy as well.
Right, oh, that's a great idea. Let's put a link to the
Yes.
policy on there. There's another conversation about that, that's probably later in the agenda, and it's about moving that to behind the login so that only Magip members have access to be able to make a request for assistance. So I think that that's coming up later in the agenda. Okay, so it is 11:45 and we have gotten through review the results and request for assistance for error for Aaron, and then we're moving on to new board business. We're about 15 minutes behind. And then we also have lunch was just delivered. So I think that we could slam out the SIG versus user group versus working group and then break for lunch if everybody is okay with that.
Yep.
Okay, and then we would begin after lunch with the budget.
Okay.
Okay, all right, if everybody's on board with that, then let's just go over this idea of SIG versus a user group versus a working group. Do you need to be a Magip member to be on any of those, whatever we decide to call them? Let's start with that, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about integrating the LiDAR SIG into the local government SIG and the cadastral SIG. So those are conversations that I had offline with Andrew Stickney, and also, Jeff, I don't think you and I talked about this as much as we should have.
Is this behind the login? Megan, do you know if we can just get to just these special interest groups?
No,
like
you
that?
have to log in.
Okay.
Oh, interesting, okay.
So right now it is behind the login.
I think it should be.
I agree.
I
Well-
think it's part of the value we give to
Oh,
our
yeah, no, I agree,
membership.
but like, just like the information about like what a special.
Oh, that we
interest group
have.
is.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was just gonna pull up like what a special interest group is, because
Yeah,
Well, I think that's,
definition.
yeah, well, that just definitely needs to be
let me log
probably
in.
panned out, but I think that's something there.
Yeah, let me log in. I just don't-
So while Jeff's logging into that, I just would like to talk a little bit about the local government SIG, which Andrew Stickney has been running. So Andrew is on vacation, he's not able to join us today. But one of the things that Jeff Sprock brought up was the LiDAR SIG and how the LiDAR SIG doesn't have leadership right now, and what is potentially going to be happening with this LiDAR SIG. When I was on the phone with when Eric Spangenberg and I met yesterday, Eric reminded me that there's been some work done already regarding LiDAR in the imagery, and that it's, I'm gonna have to ask Eric if he's still online to be able to pipe up and
So-
you can
I was,
drag
I
that
was,
over to
I was
us.
referring her to the state's working group, the state's
I'm sorry.
imagery elevation working group.
I don't have it shared right now.
Are you
so.
a robot? Okay,
Am I a robot? No, I'm not.
hold on a second. Eric, could you say that again?
What you and I, when we were talking about the whole thing about the LiDAR special interest group on the Magip side, I brought up that there's also already in full-fledged form already, there's the state of Montana's working group for LiDAR and elevation. So I felt I often question why we had the two. And I think Jason tried to explain to me this morning that it was specific to just some Magip needs, individual needs or something. I don't recall. I just said that, it seems like we have two similar functioning things going on that anyone can be members of. So that's where I was. So
You're right, Eric, and that was a concern when we did start up the LiDAR SIG, that we didn't want to overlap with what the state was already doing with the imagery and their LiDAR stuff that they were doing already.
okay.
And that was, they were trying to not overlap, although that was kind of proven to be hard, I guess, but
Is there interest in keeping that LiDAR SIG going? Like if we were just to decommission that, would anyone miss it?
Well, that's a very good question.
Because if we don't have
So-
leadership with it, then like say Andrew was to resign from his chair position. You know, I mean, we had the luxury of filling that when Tommy did, but like if there's no leadership to keep that SIG going, then you kind of don't have a SIG. in my
Right.
eyes.
So let me just throw out an idea that Andrew and I talked about with regard to that SIG. So it's always difficult to get really good content for the local government SIG. And I think as all of you know, we're all very busy. But yet sometimes it's awesome to be able to have content brought to you that you maybe didn't realize you needed to have some information about. So the idea was if the people that already are part of that LiDAR SIG that's existing within Magip are interested in still having an avenue to get together, that it could potentially go through the local government SIG, where we already have a number of people that are joining on for they're logging in for the content that we bring them.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a built-in audience, and it would be an opportunity to provide information and potentially just some value to the local government SIG people that are coming to the meetings. So I mean, I think that disbanding it, if the people that were attending are still interested in attending, even with the lack of leadership, that we could potentially keep it going if those people are interested in presenting at the local government SIG. So that would be it would be a compromise to shutting it down completely, but keeping it going until there was a person that could potentially step into the president role.
I mean, in a way, we kind of do that already in the local government, because like, you know, we have conservation or planning, or, you know, this one, we have parcels. So
Exactly.
we kind of have different elements of what the local government is made up of that just kind of presents at different months.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like Jeff was coming from it from a local government perspective when he
Yeah.
started the LiDAR SIG.
Yes.
Because they were gonna be getting it,
Interesting.
LiDAR and
Okay.
imagery and wanted to see what a local government could do with it.
Okay.
So I think it makes sense as putting it under that local government umbrella.
Okay.
With-
Thank you.
With like the option to, if people are interested, make it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just don't know what you do with like the SIG page, because like, I mean, we're gonna. I mean,
Yeah, and
'cause,
that's
like next meeting, I mean, obviously this stuff is all outdated, but like, what do we do here? You know, obviously Jeff's not the chair anymore, but.
Yeah, I think that we could probably include the local government SIG component to it. If there's gonna be somebody that's presenting at the local government SIG, then that would be what would go there. I think that next meeting TBD, right? I just feel like there are many special interest groups in GIS that, again, you have that pendulum of, you have a person that wants to meet to talk about the subject, and they are the people that pull in the, the users, and they create the content, and then for whatever reason, and in this case, Jeff has to step aside, and that has to do with his role at Billings and his lack of ability to fill his GIS manager position. I can totally see Jeff filling that position and saying, hey, I used to be the president of this. I'd like you to assume that role as part of your leadership role as the manager, the GIS manager at Billings. I'm not saying that that's what's gonna happen, but that very potentially could happen. So I don't think that we shut it down. I
Yeah.
think that for now, we
Well-
just like let it simmer.
Here's an example of a SIG that's not active, but is still on our site. So, I mean, we wouldn't be setting a precedent with the LiDAR. SIG, so.
Is the local government SIG the only kind of active
Yes.
user
Yes.
group? Okay, because I could see, I've never, even paid attention to the local government SIG, sorry, everybody. Since that's not a space I work in, and I
Right.
wouldn't probably know if there was like a useful talk that had some.
Well, you can
overlap.
certainly log in and see.
Yeah, I know. Now I know
see
that
the
now.
previous ones.
I
Yeah,
mean,
Andrew sends out an agenda, what's gonna be on.
yeah,
Yeah, so like I'm presenting with Mike Snook on Thursday. So on
Common.
parcels. So.
Right. And that was the other thing, Jeff, that we were talking about is the cadastral SIG that you had suggested. And that very much came out of a conversation that we were having with Montana State Library and the tribes. And your idea that a cadastral SIG might be useful, that also came out of the conference. But that there may not be the bandwidth for that, but that being able to have a platform, which is the local government
I think,
SIG.
yeah, I think that is completely fine.
Yeah.
I've actually had some internal talks, we may be creating a kind of a support group
Okay,
for parcel fabric, for
Okay.
those moving into parcel fabric, because I think there is a need, but it doesn't necessarily have to be
A SIG.
under the Magip umbrella.
Yeah, and that's the question. So this is a really like broad topic in the sense of what does Magip bring to the table? Why do you pay for your membership? What's the value of being a member? And then you have, hey, we have this special interest group or this user group or whatever you want to call it, that's being led by Montana State Library. Well, we definitely have a relationship with Montana State Library. I don't think that there's a person at the table that can't identify with what that relationship is. But for us as Magip to support the GIS community in the state of Montana, do we have a special interest group? Do we have working groups? What do we call them? Does it matter?
Rob has a comment. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was thinking about not just what was just brought up, but so we've got local government SIG, LiDAR SIG, cadastral SIG, things of that nature. Each one of those has, a challenge of coming up with content. And as was said earlier, I'm wondering what would it mean? What would it look like if we just called it a special interest group meeting, right? And at those meetings, there are various topics. Sometimes you're talking about local government issues. Sometimes you're talking about imagery or LiDAR issues. Sometimes you're talking about parcel fabric and cadastral issues. It's just a suggestion. Rather than parceling it out into these really specific things, maybe these are opportunities for people to talk about things of interest at a particular time.
I mean, that's kind of what we do now, but I mean,
right.
You combine the SIGs, you have topics.
Yeah. Well,
So
but it's still gonna be very local government centric though, because I think the majority of the folks that are in that meeting are local government. So I still don't think you can get away with get away from the local government aspect of it, but maybe just call it something different. Just have it as a,
Call it a special interest.
yeah.
group and leave the local
I
government.
I don't mind that idea. honestly.
So what if you, if you want to have quarterly meetings for LiDAR SIG, you could build that into just one special interest group. Like every third month we do a LiDAR one instead of a local.
That's what Andrew and I were talking about, that it would be,
I
but it
don't-
would be topic specific.
And the SIGs don't come from the board. They come from a member who wants to start a group.
Yeah,
And so if
yes.
they want to keep the local government SIG, I don't think we should tell them that we have to change it.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree
And
with
they have
that.
momentum.
Yep,
They have,
absolutely,
so.
absolutely.
Aaron's got her hand up.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Erin's got her hand up.
Somebody wanna unmute her or?
Go ahead, Erin.
Gail, you cool with me talking?
I'm sorry?
You cool with me talking?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Erin. Yeah.
I wanted to check with the chair.
Teasing you.
I just want to remind everyone that the board did seek out folks to the special interest group can be used as a tool for the board to get certain questions answered. And so if there's any like review that the board wants to do, let's say on a new policy, they could put a special interest group on it. So they can come and go at the leisure, from my understanding, with Magip and other organizations I've been a part of, is they come at the leisure of the board and the membership. And so several years ago, there was a discussion about having membership rates change. And so the board had reached out to several folks, and Leah Mackholtz and I were a part of that special interest group to discuss and kind of come up with recommendations on membership fees or membership structure. And so I would say that there be times when the Montana State Library is going to reach out and ask you to review a best practice or a policy. And we would love for, like, you know, for the board to do that. And if the board as a unit cannot do that, then I think a special interest group would be the route through our current structure on how to get that accomplished. And if you recall, I presented, I think maybe in March, about the new workflow for best practices and standards to be published. And Magip is actually called out in there to have it as a group to review and endorse policies. I think review, endorse, and test policies and best practices in the future. So I am going to talk about working groups and that moving in my section of the agenda. So yeah.
I actually, Erin, you called it a working group. I love the idea of calling those special task groups or task force or
Ad hoc committees.
ad hoc
is what we've
committee,
called them in
right?
the past.
I personally feel like SIGs are special interest groups specific to an organization. So, and this is just me bringing my history with me, that a special interest group for GIS users, I think that's okay. I think that for Erin, those special working groups, we can define it as a working group, if that works for you, Erin. And again, we'll come back to it when you're talking. Is that okay?
Well, yeah, I'm going to draw it out for you, but the working group is separate from that. So I think that's what Eric was trying to get at earlier, is there are multiple groups. And so the working group is a part of each MSDI. It's a tool for each MSDI layer, and there's a working group for each layer. So
I see. Got it.
technically there are 15 layers, so there could be 15 working groups, and those will kind of come up and down and be more active when something needs to be studied or reviewed. But I would see a special interest group as the state library, the council comes to Magip and says, we would like you to review this policy. A SIG could be something that would review that policy and make a recommendation to the board, if that makes sense.
I don't consider that a special interest group. That's just like a.
Yeah, so that membership dues, that was a task force that was formed.
Yeah, I was just, so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
And those are,
I would
and
agree
those are
with that.
temporary.
I would agree with that. So I think maybe what we need to qualify it is that it's a temporary working group that's put together to answer a specific question. I'm okay with continuing with SIG and with the working groups that are specific to Montana State Library. Okay, so I don't think there's any actual action that needs to be done on that, but we'll come back to it again when Erin's going to be talking later in the day. Is there anybody else that has any comments about the special interest group versus a user group versus a working group?
I have a comment. If the LiDAR SIG does get reinvigorated, I would maybe suggest renaming it remote sensing SIG, since there's, aerial imagery, LiDAR, sonar, topo bathymetric mapping, all kinds of interesting things in that space these days.
And I think that can happen if we get somebody that wants to champion that, wants to, expand it.
I'll consider it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that
It doesn't have to be a board member that is championing.
Yeah, by that I mean I'll force somebody else to do it.
Yeah, delegate, there you go.
I do love the idea of Helen taking a hold of that. So I would also comment that Ayers, Tyler Kavish, who is our.
That's who I was gonna insinuate.
Yep. There are definitely people that are in the commercial world that look at those groups as ways to educate us. And I think it's definitely a necessary use of their expertise and a great way for us to, it's good for them, Ellen, she would agree. It's a great way to get
Yes.
business, but I think it's also a great way to educate, and I think that's important.
And that was Jeff's, Sprock's initial vision with it, he's unfortunate to have enough time to keep the momentum going
Yeah.
from it, so.
Yeah, thank you, and I would agree with that. I
Yeah.
think that Jeff was loath to
Yeah,
give it up.
I
and
was
he
at
just
that,
doesn't have
I
it.
was at that SIG meetup, that they had at the conference in 2013, and, Troy's obviously was on board with it too, so like, yes, there is the elevation working group,
Mhm.
but they distinctly work together, so I mean, I would imagine the new person would almost need to do the same sort of thing, like,
Yeah.
the elevation work group, they have their sets of things that they do,
That they focus on?
that they
Okay.
focus on. The lighter SIG, it's more of kind of an educational piece, I mean, so that in by itself does distinguish itself.
Oh,
the
thank you, that's
education.
helpful.
Jenny pointed out that Article 10, Section 2 talks about ad hoc committees in our bylaws. So.
Oh, ad hoc committees,
Yeah.
okay,
Um,
that's great. Could you bring that?
well,
I gotta
she
start
knows studying.
studying.
What's that?
10, it's committees in Section 2, sorry. Article
Yeah,
10.
right there,
Article 10,
section 2.
Committees versus ad hoc, section 2, ad hoc committees. Hey, Erin, can you see the screen? Are we sharing it with you? So we're reading, Article 10, Section 2, ad hoc committees.
kind of the election.
I think this
Elections
actually
is kind of
falls
the-
in,
kind of-
she's still on there.
Was
She
what?
might check
Elections
out.
is kind of an.
Okay. Let's come back to
Yeah.
this. Let's come back to
Aaron
this.
just
with
had to
Erin.
step off, guys. If you check your
Sorry,
chat,
Eric.
you'll see that Aaron just had to step off, so.
Okay, well, she's
Yeah,
gonna
you
be,
can
she's gonna
just
be
move on
presenting
and-
later, so we'll
Yeah,
bring
I
this
just
to our
move
attention.
on and wait till she comes back and let her, however you guys are gonna want to deal with this, so.
Yeah, it does, Aaron is right, like, you read the statement there, Gail.
Yeah,
Interest groups serve the board in an advisory capacity. So that is interesting.
yeah, but it doesn't say anything about it being temporary, where the ad hoc is temporary.
No,
and
I'm
I
not,
think
I'm
those
not,
are
I'm not
different.
meaning in that sense, but just like.
Yeah, the
you know,
special interest group
Yeah.
is to, and I agree with that, like, if we had a question about imagery, or if we had a question about cadastral, we would go to the special interest group to get that information. But I think that when it comes to something that Erin is talking about, where it's like, we want you to take this document and look at this document and confirm that it's gonna meet the needs of the people of the state of, the GIS users of the state of Montana, that's an ad hoc
Yeah,
group. And I think that's where we're like kind of mixing words a little bit, because I just did a general search of a SIG versus a user group versus a working group definitions. And honestly, there wasn't.
yeah.
They're very gray, they're all very muddy. But I do agree that the ad hoc is specific to
Yeah.
what she's looking for.
Yeah, perform a specific task.
Yep, to
So,
perform the specific task.
it's-
So
it's in
let's
our
bring this
bylaws.
back, section 10, Article 10, Section 2, for ad hoc committees when Erin's presenting. So that she knows that there is a space for us to do that.
So we're breaking for lunch then?
Yes, we're going to break for lunch. And are we gonna pause the,
Yeah, we could.
so we'll be back in a half an hour.
Excellent. Enjoy lunch.
So we're gonna, excited?
Oh, wonderful.
You did it double-sided, which is good for you, but then I didn't have enough room for notes. I got
Need
it.
another one?
I'm good. I think I'm good.
Don't forget to hit record.
And
Oh, and
microphones
let's-
I
are-
got it going.
Oh, you got it, okay.
Yeah, I just did it at the same time when,
We're back.
yep, we are back.
All right. Okay,
We'll put the key thing on the inside.
it's 12:40. We have an hour and a half. So let's start with new board business, budget, review the skeleton 2025 budget. That includes brainstorm other ways to fund Magip.
Did you want to share your screen?
Okay. Ready?
You're up.
Okay, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna share my screen.
Did we lose Jenny? I thought Jenny was gonna wanna be here for the budget.
I was looking at the screen.
Okay, so I just put together a PowerPoint. I thought we could go over really quick. Just kind of to go over kind of the trend of our budget and to help us give us some context about how we can budget this year. And so, yeah, I thought maybe we could spend 5 or 10 minutes going through this and then kind of spend some time on the discussion points that are on the agenda. And so here is Magip's account balance over the past 3 years. You can see, yeah, that we've made, is there a reason why it's not showing the entire?
The
Oh,
piece at the top.
gotta shrink this. Let's do it.
Okay, you can see that Magip's account has grown over the past few years, and then you can see a significant growth this past year. And there's a couple reasons for that, which we'll see in some of the next slides. So here is what we've spent over the past 3 years for each fiscal year. And kind of just to make it more clear and easier to understand, I've only included the totals for these categories. Our investments, this is interest we've accrued through interest in our savings account. And then this most recent year, interest from our certificate of deposit. And so you can see that big jump this year. And then membership, you can see that big jump from 2022 to 2023, and that was a result of our increase in membership dues. And so that had kind of the desired consequence that we anticipated. And then next is the GeoCon, and you can see that also stays pretty consistent. FY 2023, we saw a big increase by about $10,000, and that was mostly due to an increase from the workshop revenue we generated. And then you see that maintained going into this fiscal year. It stayed at $82,000. There's a little bit more to the story with that, in that we actually saw $10,000 less revenue generated from workshops and 10,000 more in sponsorships from what we've seen in the past.
So $10,000 less in tech workshops.
Yes.
What changed? Yeah.
Some of that is,
Was it these billings?
Well,
some of
and-
that is the non member rate too. So like I remember back in Butte, we had a huge jump in that, but because if you break it down, there was like a large number of non-members that were signed up for these workshops. You know, and particularly like the Pimpler ones, where like that's exacerbated even more because of the amount of payout that we give out to both David and
Kara and
Eric.
yeah,
Eric, yeah.
Has that amount increased? Are we paying them more than we used to, or it's ish?
I think it's about the same.
It's-
I would imagine
Okay.
this year, if you were to just look at the attendance and just break it down, you probably just saw like a decrease in attendance across the board in each one of them, in each one of the classes.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if the billings factor has to do anything about it too, but that's just something we can't control. It's a location, so.
What were you gonna say, Michelle? Oh, I thought you had something to say.
Oh, didn't we have one of the workshops where we didn't have any attendees and then we made it free? I'm not sure if that also reduced the income.
That was John.
Yeah.
He was at the Missoula one a few years ago, in 2022, and both of his classes were like
Yeah,
half full. You know, there was 10 to 12 people. So
Maybe Tessa, when you start looking at the tech sessions for this year, we can go back to those previous years and see what those sessions were and which ones were better attended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just wanted also, I'll show this, I'll show, I'll show this really quick. This is the revenue that we generated from this year's workshops. With the expenses deducted for things like facility rental and the expenses that Eric and David and them charge.
The
So,
red is for the facility.
yeah, this
Expense.
is for facility, for expenses that were charged from Eric and David and care for their services. And so this column is the actual profit that we saw.
Well,
So
from
next gen
those workshops.
911, is that the one that made us a lot of money there? What do you show for overall workshop revenue?
parcel.
Oh, parcel.
Well, that's because there was no room
6,000.
rental in it.
No, overall
Oh,
revenue.
overall, 21,615.
What was it?
And I had 22, we were just a little off at 22,195.
Nate, I guess you made a comment when we were driving up here that the facility fee is much greater than we've seen. That may,
Well, at the Delta.
yeah, then, yeah, the delta than we've seen at both the Northern and Grantry. We
That will
do-
make a
we-
difference.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure, especially with those,
Sure,
especially with those 80 and 161s, we'll have to
Oh.
make sure that the folks that are signing up for those, yeah, at least have enough money to at least cover the room, the rental of the room.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not worth having.
Parcel fabric.
That's good.
Parcel fabric, killing it.
That's
yeah.
big, well, it was well attended, plus you don't have the room rental, so.
Yeah, and then intro.
Well, I guess
and
there was a
GIS
room.
Next Gen 911 is also. well
Those are
attended.
local where they don't charge us to teach the courses.
Yeah.
Wow, intro to experience builder was 3,069.
That's a Pimpler.
QGIS is in the red, huh? I'll pay for instructors travel.
Yeah, we paid for them
got
to
it.
travel, but it was really well attended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been one to maybe bump up the.
Cost.
Yeah, the cost on it,
course.
but
Okay, well, that's good. That's good
Might
feedback.
wanna send that to Tessa. if you can.
I'm sure.
Jason entered the waiting room. Could you let him in?
Send that slide to
Oh.
Tessa.
Okay, and then, so that's our revenue. And then for expenses, all of this includes food and catering costs and the awards and gifts we hand out, supplies, printing, reproduction, presenter travel and workshop fees, and swag. And so the expenses that we expect, I work with Michelle to incorporate the budget for the conference into Magip's budget. So,
Thank you.
and we can see that's pretty consistent for the past few years. And then operating expenses, this includes our contract with Full Scope, the communications specialist, insurance that covers the board of directors, software costs that includes Wild Apricot and QuickBooks, and then also board travel and lodging mainly for the strategic event, and then food at our quarterly meetings. And then program, I kind of view this as the member benefits category. This is where we spend money to host meetups and hand out scholarships and poster awards at the conference. And previously, we've included swag in this area.
Is that swag for general swag and
Well, I think,
for the conference?
yeah, we've kind of
I thought we had that
decided,
separate.
yeah, we've decided like moving forward to include the swag with the conference, and the conference is gonna buy Magip general swag. And so that's not gonna have anything that's branded for the conference, and it's gonna have stuff that we can use throughout the year, I think.
so the scholarship and grants, was there any, so there was So there was none awarded this year, or is that still? to come?
There was one awarded
One,
this year. Yep, one K through 12 scholarship awarded. And so that's one of the reasons we see that reduction in expenses this year.
And not as
for that
many
category.
awards. Did we reduce the number of awards?
Awards
The
for,
poster awards.
yeah, and that's minimal. That's a few
Yeah.
$100. Yeah.
6,000 is a lot.
Okay, and so, yeah, this slide shows what we budgeted for in FY 2024 and what we actually see today. And so there are a few expenses that we still have in June. We still have to pay full scope for their services, which is $1,000, and then some of our subscriptions, such as Intuit, QuickBooks, and the payment processing. So still expect a couple $1,000s to pay this month.
So what is in that 7,000 that isn't, that was?
Yeah,
was budgeted for, but was not paid? Some of it's the scholarships. Is there anything else in there?
the majority is the scholarships. We still have $500 in meetups that we talked about, and then 575 in requests for assistance that we didn't spend this year. So
Yeah, I think the year before we had an awful lot of requests for assistance.
Yeah.
We had a GIS day
Well, that's.
and it was statewide
Yeah.
and we had, I think, 3 requests for assistance.
Right.
So you had one, we had one, Billings had one.
Yeah.
Missoula, I think, yeah, there were 4, weren't they?
Yeah.
Didn't you put 4? Yeah,
So that was.
locations up on
This year,
the
it wasn't-
experience
it
builder.
wasn't that much.
Yeah. Yeah, and so kind of why we came out so good this year is kind of a combination of things and kind of a perfect storm that we generated $10,000 more in sponsorships that we didn't foresee when we made this budget, and then also those scholarships and some other meetup costs that we didn't hand out. So if
Where's the money that we made on the bank thing?
the big thing, investment.
Yeah, the investment was like
That's investment.
$434 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all. we
Which is
did?
awesome compared to
Put
$4.
2,000 in there,
We put $25,000 in there.
25,000 or
$25,000.
2,500?
25,000.
25,000.
And we made $500 in 6 months.
Yeah, because what interest rate? Probably 4 or 5%, right?
Yeah, it was
Oh, I guess. but-
Well, that was only 6
4
months.
point, yeah,
So,
6 months.
yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
above my head. so
I know, right?
I stay out of it too. We put 25,000, how did we have that much money? I don't remember I put that much in there.
We
Yeah,
had like
that's what we
$43,000,
discussed.
didn't
Really?
we?
Yeah.
And then
Alright.
we
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's fine, yeah, that's fine.
looked at the budget and how
Again,
much
that's
was gonna be
Way
hanging
over
out.
my head,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we looked at our bank account,
Yeah.
determined how the expenses that we anticipated
Okay,
for the
wait, stop.
6 months.
I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear.
Well,
it.
that's where we talked about
$25,000
That's
That's
before.
essentially
We
half the
did.
scholarship though.
Yeah,
Like, is it,
well,
like,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the, because I serve on the booster club in East Helena, and that's the way we look at it, because we do the same thing. It's a half of scholarship that we essentially pay out.
Is the plan to
Yes.
do that again,
I hope, yeah.
or are we gonna renew it?
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
we
how-
should talk
is
about
what-
I think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
something we should talk about, yeah, whether or not we're gonna just put the money back in or
Okay.
use the money to support other things, which would be students and scholarships. For us, for our meeting. But it sounds like we're covered for that.
Okay, so that's where we're at today. And so these next few slides are some anticipated expenses and revenue that we're already expecting in 2025 that will get incorporated into the budget. And so one of the biggest changes in expenses for 2025 is the facility cost at the Delta. And so, as you can see, at the Northern, our facility cost was $6,200, and audio and visual were included. At the Delta, our contract for facility costs is $12,000, and audio and visual is separate, and so that's an additional $3,000.
Does any of that go down if you meet the room walk?
Well, it doesn't go down, you have to meet the room block to get that, but one thing I will mention is there's no food and beverage minimum.
Yeah.
And so typically what a hotel will do is the higher the food and beverage minimum, the lower the meeting room rental costs, or sometimes they'll just waive the meeting room rental costs all the way. But for some reason, the Delta did not incorporate a food and beverage minimum, which I think is why that's so high. So I could go back to them and say, hey, if we spend $25,000 on food and beverage, would you lower that? And they probably would.
It's probably worth looking into.
I think we
because,
should
because
do
the
that.
catering's probably gonna be that regardless.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll find out.
yeah, that would be great.
Can they do that?
Not much.
Is that a-
I did.
They do the
Hey,
catering.
Michelle? Michelle?
Yeah, like the
Hello?
catering.
Hey, this is Eric.
Hi, Eric.
I'm just curious. I know we've been at the Great Northern in the past. Have you been at a conference there recently? Do they have the facilities for us, or did we outgrow them?
I don't think they have enough breakout rooms.
No,
They
I don't
don't.
think they do.
Okay, I'm just thinking there's got to be a way to play them off of it. I mean, the Delta, they're raping us, man. That's ridiculous.
It's not, I mean, because I do this all the time, honestly, with no food and beverage minimum, it's not bad. That's all I'm saying. It's very normal and very typical.
But if we go back to
No.
them
And
and put that in there.
the Northern, that, they gave us a great deal. I'll tell you that. That was a really good deal.
Billings is available.
I love the
Go back.
Keep going, keep going back.
I
know
will
Great Falls-
ask, is there a plan for
There we
us to
go.
pay to buy food at the 2025 conference? Like, are we gonna be buying food for it? Because if we are, we should definitely go back and ask them if they can.
Definitely like the lunch, maybe even 2 lunches, since they're
There's nowhere for them to walk.
exactly, yes, we're not in the same boat as Billings, so we can
Yeah.
use that
Okay.
Thursday.
How many meals will there be, do you think? 3. Okay, and how much do we pay for those meals generally? Nate?
Well,
Well,
three,
it's
there's,
just the
20,000.
dinner and the lunch.
okay, so there's 3 meals and then also the heavy hors d'oeuvres for the social night.
Okay,
And
and what do
there's
we
break-
budget
And
for
there's
that?
break food too. I always budget in break food.
Okay,
too.
yes.
It's
and I
always
agree.
north of 20,000, probably closer to 25,000.
Well, the Northern, we can tell you right now, I have the conference budget up right now.
It
We
was-
spent
22,000.
22,849, and that was for 4 days of morning and afternoon breaks. Our Tuesday public night, lunch Wednesday,
And yes,
Wednesday banquet.
Yeah, so that's without the second one, so.
yeah, we didn't have the lunch on Thursday because we just lunch on your own because you could walk.
And I think people like that.
And in Bozeman, we did have that
Yeah,
second
box
lunch
lunches.
and it was around $25,000 for food.
Yeah.
So,
And there were a lot of lunches left on the table because so many
Oh, yeah.
people had left. But still, I think if we budgeted $22,000 for food, we should definitely take that back to the Delta and say, hey, you should probably decrease this amount because that's really high.
So you have to consider, like, if we spend $25,000 on food and there's 200 people at the conference, I mean, it always, that number always seems so huge, but when you think
Yes.
about you're providing food, like, quite a bit of food for people over the course of 4 days, it's $125 a person.
Okay.
It's really not that bad.
Okay.
Yes, I will definitely reach out to the Delta. I'm not holding out.
The other thing you will have to be
Okay.
wary of, because you remember what happened in 2018, is because it's in Helena and more than half the attendees are
Yes.
from Helena, go home
Yes.
For the
for the
banquet.
banquet, so.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Or
that's
go-
that's
or-
important
Or
to
even just
consider.
go somewhere for lunch or whatever, they can certainly do it because they have their
Yeah.
cars. and
Yeah, they have their
everything.
cars. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
also something to
Okay.
consider, like,
Yep.
to maybe not budget all the way up to 25,000, but be
Okay.
somewhat conservative. in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yep.
Okay, so that's, the biggest change in expenses that we can expect this coming year. For revenue, sponsorships, in the budget, right now, I've just sustained that $10,000 increase. Kind of anticipating we see the same sponsorship levels that we did in 2024. And then for the GeoCon attendance, I looked at the Bozeman conference attendance and kind of modeled this budget closer to it than what we saw in Billings.
What was the attendance?
Why?
Why?
Because of the number of
Central
people
part of
that
the
live at
state.
home and the students.
Yeah,
Which buildings is?
and I guess also I'm
Not a big deal, I'm just wondering why.
there's a lot of GIS users in Helena, and Yeah,
And
I don't
closer
know.
to the western part of our.
yeah,
connection,
closer
so-
to
Cause
Missoula.
you saw-
Well,
and
centrally
Kalispell.
between Great Falls and.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Bozeman.
Yeah.
Cause you saw a big,
Curious.
you saw a big decrease in Missoula and Kalispell at the Billings conference in just relation to the location.
Yeah, but not many people from
Yeah.
Missoula made it.
So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but it's reality.
The demographic of the conference changes
Yeah.
based
I
on.
mean, I'm still
location
for
and
moving it
state.
around, but that's
Yeah.
just things you have to account for that
Yeah.
are attendance is gonna continue to shift based on the location of the conference.
Was our attendance higher in 2023 than this year? I
Yes.
know we had a lot
Yes.
of last minute registration.
It was about the same.
Mhm, it was about the
Same.
same.
Yeah, so yeah, about the same attendance, but less people attended workshops.
Yes,
And
that
so,
was the difference.
yeah. And so we have to find a way to increase those workshop levels. So, those levels.
Now, I will say that, how many rooms do we have for workshops this year versus?
That was a
four?
challenge.
Yeah.
Is it 4 or 5? 4. I think it's 4.
We did that walk through the Delta. That seemed like an awfully huge.
Are you talking about
place.
Billings or Helena?
Hold on.
There's at least 4
I thought there were 5.
that we have
Oh, more
contracted. I think they have more rooms.
Oh, I see.
But like, also like too, like, I don't know if we wanna have like 6 workshops going on at the same time. But because it's in Helena, we could take advantage of making it, make it a 5-day conference and possibly put workshops on Friday as well, since most people are there and not gonna travel.
That
So that's a great
is
way.
not a bad idea because solely because it's in Helena.
Yeah, and you're not gonna have people.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
We've done that, but it was a long time ago.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all because
think
it's in
Helena-
Helena. I mean, if
yeah.
it's in other places, I could see not doing that. But because it's in Helena and stuff, that's not a bad idea at all.
Can you say that again? I was reading.
So, instead of it just being the standard 4 days, we expanded it to 5 days, and so kind of front and back ending your workshops with the content in the middle.
I think that's a great idea. And one of the reasons why is because getting people to stay for the last presentations is always hard if you don't have a reason to stay in the room. So at both the Bozeman conference and the Billings conferences that I attended, people left like at noon because they needed to get home. And yet there were people that were still presenting until 3. And I just think that for the people that are presenting that came all that way, people should stay in the room. So I think that if the way to keep them there is to bookend it, and I think potentially get different people able to attend that can't attend Monday, they can maybe stay, they can come Friday. I think it's a great way to take care of that.
We've tried different
I
ideas
think
too, like
it's both.
Missoula, we
I
tried
agree.
doing like roundtables at, like we do box lunches,
Yep.
roundtables following lunch. And I think we did kind of like a raffle or what was that? Just like a giveaway.
But
at
you
the
had to
very
be present
end.
to it.
Yeah, you had to be present to win.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of another incentive that
Yeah.
we could maybe introduce in the future.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
People
We
will
can
stay
talk
for
about that when
prizes.
we're doing conference planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
the
wanna
big
stay
card.
on.
But the book ending too is all about the fact that it's in Helena.
So, but just so you guys know, the last time it was in Helena in 18, there was 183 attendees.
Oh.
And in Butte the next year, there was 206, which kind of makes up the highest attended conference in the last 5 years
206.
in Butte.
Mhm. Okay,
And then in Billings and Bozeman, it was about right around a little over
203.
200.
yeah.
And then in Missoula, what was it in Missoula? 721?
I think it was 180 or something.
Missoula, 22. Yeah, that one was right out of COVID. though,
Yeah,
so-
exactly right. But
That one, yeah, that one.
That
but it
one-
was welcome to have.
It was probably well under 100. It was probably like 150.
In Missoula?
Yeah,
I'll
'cause that was the
It
first
was
in-person
right
one.
after.
Oh,
COVID.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
I'll
right
look
after
really
COVID.
quick, and that was in 22.
Yeah.
And then 2020, we did the virtual one, right?
No, we
In
can't.
the fall.
We just did
21,
it.
Canceled.
21.
21 was a
Together with
virtual.
That was the original Missoula date, wasn't 22.
And then we just didn't do anything in 20, right?
Because we ended up canceling like in March.
Was
Yeah,
there like a
There
it
was
was
mini?
no
too
way that we
late.
would've
It
got
was
it
too
put
late to
together
do
that
anything.
quick.
Yeah, exactly.
We
So
did a
the
little mini,
2021, we have.
Yeah, that was in the
Yeah.
fall. We did a mini.
we did like a mini
a
thing.
virtual mini conference in the fall to kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of make up for the.
And then in 2021, we did a virtual.
Right.
Okay.
But anyway,
Okay.
sorry, Nate.
Oh, no, that's
Yeah,
all
it's all
good
good.
points, yeah.
Just, yeah, I'm just.
And I
saying.
think, yeah, we should talk about those more when we start planning the conference.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, another way of generating revenue would be to make that investment in a CD for another 6 months and maybe just consider automatically renewing it when it matures.
So what was the total for the year? Was it like 700? Because this number that you brought up was for just 6 months, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about $700. And did we decide to just put that money back into it?
So right now we don't have a CD open. It's just in our savings account.
Oh, interesting, because
So-
we only did it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not realize that. I thought that it was an automatic renewal.
'Cause we
Okay.
wanted
We
to
didn't
use that
vote
for
Oh, we
the
wanted to try it.
conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were concerned that we weren't gonna have money.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Which is a concern. You definitely need some funds available to pay out, especially at the end of the conference. You need to have that money available at that time, but
And I think that's why we made that
Yeah.
decision when we did, was to, so that it would be liquid
Yeah.
in the event that we needed it.
Yeah.
Right,
So
okay.
could you do like a 9-month term and then use that money for the conference?
Yeah, it's kind of, we can look at they have different interest rates for different terms.
Yeah.
So it's kind of,
Do you know what
deciding
terms are
what-
right now?
I don't-
sometimes they'll do.
I would-
Sometimes they'll do 4-month
I-
CDs.
I
too.
would move for you to have something in July where we could
Yeah,
take an action on it and approve if we're gonna do that or not, but have some options of what 9 months looks like.
yeah, so maybe
I
by
would
next
second
meeting, I
that.
could have something ready for that we can approve.
okay. Yeah, the other
Well,
option
wait a
too
minute,
is,
go back to that slide again. I just saw, so you're thinking about adding another 5,000?
Yeah.
I don't care, just, that's what you were suggesting.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we definitely have enough in our savings to be able to do that.
one of the other things that I think that we should consider is that there's ways that you can do like 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 6 month, 9 month, year CDs. Is that there could potentially be ways that we could stagger those so that they would
Okay.
become available at different times. The
Right.
interest rates are different, but maybe just like if you could present that for us when
Okay.
we meet in July,
Yeah.
just like look at that, because in that case, we could do like a 6 month CD that's available, but then do those shorter amounts that, to your point, Jeff, they would be fluid, and then we could take them out. They would still be secured in a CD, earning a higher interest rate, but they just wouldn't stay in as long. But
Okay.
then we could potentially set them up to automatically roll over.
Yeah.
But if they're on a shorter term, then you can pull them out more easily.
Yeah.
That might be something that we could
It's
consider.
always like not that big of a fee to
Yeah.
do your CD.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
It
Yeah.
is true,
Yeah.
but
Like for at my bank, it was like
Yeah.
a $25 fee
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the trouble with Wells Fargo is they're so difficult to schedule an appointment with.
Mm.
I've never dealt with a bank more difficult than Wells Fargo, so,
Oh,
yeah.
well, we could go with a different
know.
bank.
We'll
That's
just-
frustrating.
logistic nightmare, that too.
Okay, okay. Okay, so this is a to-do. Thank you. For our next agenda. Anything else?
That's it for that slide. And so this next graph just shows that increase in sponsorship revenue that we saw, and then the decrease in workshop. And then going into next year, it would be nice to see the same revenue level of workshops at the same level that we saw in 2023. Okay, so now this next slide is areas that we could save. One way we could save some money is going with a 2-year plan with Wild Apricot. They're our hosting service to host our website online. Right now, we have a 1-year plan with them. They do offer 2-year plans, and that would save us $144 per year. So that is something to consider. And I don't see any concerns with doing a 2-year plan. We definitely have enough money in our savings account to do that. And then what we did last year, and this, we would have to work with Full Scope and make sure it's okay with Michelle and her team, is to have a Magip member help with the conference. So we don't have to pay the lodging fee for 2 staff and then also per diem.
You have to go this year, just-
No,
or
I was just
you?
by myself.
Well, you
We've-
really weren't by yourself.
I wasn't
Did we
really-
budget for 2 for this last year?
I think we budgeted.
But
for
in a
one.
way, though,
Okay.
you already
Yeah,
had.
but the previous year
other
we had
kind of
2
people.
Okay.
yeah.
Essentially help out with registration.
Yeah, everybody just
Yeah, it was-
shows up and,
So that was, would that be sustainable?
I think so. I mean,
I
as
don't
long
see
as you
why
guys are willing to,
stop by the desk and
Help,
see
and
what's
then-
going on.
and then just,
We
you
can
know,
always pass around a sign-up sheet too amongst the
That's
planning
what I do.
committee and.
yeah, and I think one thing we could do that I think we used to do, or
back to
maybe
having
before my
students.
students.
That's what I was just
Students,
gonna
perfect.
say.
Well, and I think a great use for the students would be to have in each of the rooms to
Mhm.
be the room monitors or whatever you wanna call them.
Yep.
They're usually fairly
Yes.
tech savvy, they're, you know,
Yeah.
just, cause a lot of times it's me having to run into the room to help the presenter hook up their laptop or get their presentation up, and so then that takes me away from the registration desk, and inevitably, right when I do that, somebody needs something from the registration
Mhm.
desk, so
Yeah.
you definitely need to have 2 people. But if the students could be tech savvy enough to be designated in each of those rooms to help the present, you know, we would just, they would have to have clear expectations, like they need to know how to hook up the laptop, and, cause sometimes the hotel has good tech people in there, and sometimes they don't, sometimes they charge you to have tech people in
Yeah.
there, sometimes they don't, so.
And then you wouldn't be scrambling to get moderators.
What I
Yes.
know in the planning or the post conference, we talked about the moderators keeping track of how many people are in the attendees too.
Yeah,
Because Curtis, I think Curtis is involved here to have like a sort of pre
Yeah.
set up that they essentially have like on a tablet or something or on a phone and just kind of keep track of the attendees.
yeah.
So at least we can start having numbers of like,
Yeah.
okay, these are the popular topics. or
And you know
tracks.
what, in SCED too, you can turn on the functionality where people can self-check themselves into a session,
Mhm.
so we could just encourage people like,
I don't see that.
No.
I don't see
they
that
want to check
working.
themselves in,
No,
okay.
that's what.
Esri, they have
that's what the
somebody that's
moderators
scanning
do.
you.
I think
Well,
the
and
moderator would do that,
One of
yeah.
the things that I would like to see the moderators do this year is, I love the idea of the students being moderators, and every room should have a moderator all the time. Is to count the number of seats that are in there, and then count the number of people that are in the room.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah,
like the
oh, okay, I
attendance, the
missed that
attendance.
conversation,
Yeah,
because that just
Like
makes
having
me
a survey 1,
crazy.
2, 3 to do it.
Yes, something that at the end of the
Oh.
session, perfect, survey 1 to 3, let's count them, because I think that also it's valuable in the sense that it tells us what sessions were people in, right? Which we don't have good demographics
Let
on.
Rob it.
The other thing to keep in mind is a lot of times with our hotel contracts, we get one comp room per 40 room nights actualized.
Mhm.
So a lot of times my room ends up being free, or if you want to allocate it to a speaker, so that
Mm.
actually saves you guys quite a bit of money.
Is Delta doing that again? Or is Delta doing that?
I think so most of them do, and I can
Oh.
negotiate it in if they're not.
How many rooms do we block out for our 40?
Depends on the day.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
another
interesting.
conversation. because it's
Okay, yeah,
And you
let's not do
definitely-
it
in Helena,
this time.
In Helena, you want to be conservative.
Okay, okay.
You're gonna see that room block.
I want to stay on schedule because we are a little bit behind, but we have until 1:15 to talk about the budget, review the skeleton budget, brainstorm ways that to fund Magip. So Michelle, are you okay with skipping the conference budget overview, or is there anything that you wanted to tell us about? I think that
No, I just was gonna say, I know that Nate
yes.
lays his budget out a little differently, but for the internal conference budget I do, we did show a bottom line of about $20,000 for the conference this year, and that includes a percentage of my time,
Okay,
my contract time, so
okay.
if you include that and everything else, there was a bottom line of around $20,000.
And that was for the Billings conference?
Yes,
Okay, and do you have like,
That's income, how much we're gonna pull in?
that was what the profit was, around $20,000.
Oh, what we made last year.
Yeah, in
Oh,
Billings.
right, right.
Yeah.
and what are we budgeting for and this is interesting because I didn't realize that there's a separate conference budget from Nate's budget, which is one
Well, it's
reason.
within Nate's budget.
Yeah, it is within Nate's budget, but it's actually managed by Michelle. So I think that's an important distinction that I wasn't aware of until we met. So I'm curious, when you're looking at the budget for 2025, the conference, how are those numbers sort of playing out in terms of like compared to Billings and Bozeman?
Like what our bottom line is, you mean?
Yeah.
I think I have predicted about the same, but let me look. But I do think that Nate and I need to, and I know you've already incorporated a lot of it in from what you and I, what we talked about on our call, but just making, I'm estimating about 9,300 profit. But that's
Okay.
before, and then you sent me the email. That was with me estimating workshop revenue as what it was in Billings, not
Okay.
Bozeman. So I was
Okay.
being, my very conservative budget, 9,300
Okay.
bottom line. But
If we
If we
increase
just-
it
if-
because we're gonna have more tech sessions,
then it would
better.
be about 20,000.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I was just
So-
being really conservative because of the decrease in workshop
Okay.
revenue.
Okay. Thank
Could
you.
that Friday, could we just go to a different location? Would that be a pain in the butt? Like, find it.
Yeah, I
less
think that, I
expensive.
think it would be better to keep everybody at the same place, just because that continuity of having people that potentially could come in later could attend those sessions on
Yeah,
Thursday.
because then you can have a room block at the
Yes,
hotel, then they don't have
yeah.
to drive to say
Yeah.
Yeah,
TNRC
that's
or
what I was-
Wildlife Park.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we probably should look into that.
That's
There,
interesting.
Michelle getting Friday.
How many
In our
rooms on
contract.
Friday?
I would probably just do 20. I wouldn't even block off a room.
No.
Well, it would be
terms of-
Thursday
Oh, you
evening.
mean
you
for
mean, right?
text?
What?
Oh,
You mean a meeting room, right?
No, you're talking about text
No,
sessions.
you're doing the hand room, sorry.
The breakout rooms. Like having 3.
You want 3 on Friday?
You mean for workshops?
and what about rooms for hotel rooms?
Thursday night, you mean?
Probably very low.
Yeah, I would.
Maybe
maybe
10?
Just
maybe
because
10
it's,
or 20.
Yeah.
yeah, very
Yeah,
low, just
yeah.
because like I think Friday is gonna be more like, hey, I already live in Helena.
Yeah,
I work
yep,
for a
yep.
state agency.
Right,
Okay.
We don't have any rooms for Thursday night right now.
right.
Okay. So just moving on really quick to the last point, there were some ideas kind of bandied about additional ways that we could fund Magip. And this comes out of the very real conversations about the budget that the conference is what funds Magip. But there's some ideas that maybe we could do other things, but this may go back to us being a nonprofit, maybe not being able to do this. So can we sell swag, like anything that says Magip on it? Can we sell it?
Nonprofit means you're not making a profit.
Yeah, we're not
So
supposed
as
to be
long as you
making money.
turn around and.
Put it
and use
into the
back into the
budget.
organization.
I would, no, I don't think we've ever sold swag.
We never have.
Are
We
you
do, we do have a,
501c3?
Yeah, don't we have the, it's on the
So we're on
website.
s- Oh, we do have that store, don't
We
we?
have swag, but we don't make a profit.
But
off
we
of
don't
it.
sell it.
We're C6.
Your C6, yeah. So the other association I work for is the C6 and we sell like fun run t-shirts.
Mhm.
Like we do sell their branded swag, but then we put it back towards
Yeah.
something for the
Right.
association.
Yeah, I
so,
know.
so yeah,
that's
we,
fine,
we
but-
can make a profit. We just, any money we make, we have
Yeah.
to, it has to benefit our members.
I think we technically have that gear store, but
we
we
do
don't
this.
ever,
We don't ever
I don't
use
think we don't think we ever advertise it either. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's even active, no idea.
What is it?
We have, we'll
There's,
bring it up.
there's a,
We have the site up.
yeah, there's a couple
Nate's sharing right now, I
t-shirts,
think. Gosh,
but we're not getting that money. Like you're just paying for it through that
It's,
company.
it's probably just like in fees you pay for like the.
We don't pay
t-shirt
for
that you
anything.
did.
It's just, we sent them the logos at some.
Oh.
And so you can pick out
you
anything
can
you
pay.
want.
And put the
And then
logo
So none of the
on it.
percentage is
pay
coming
that
back to
company
Magip.
to print.
Is
Okay.
there
Never
like
mind.
a way that you can do that? So like as a fundraiser for Magip, that people would be like, hey, you could buy Magip gear, which would be super cool. And then if you buy this, our organization gets a certain amount of like money from that. So it'd be like something that, like, I'm not gonna go out and sell sweatshirts, but if I wanted to own a sweatshirt that said Magip on it, because I'm president this year, that'd be super cool. I could buy it and then we could get a kickback from it.
I'm sure there must be. a
Probably
way.
Well, wouldn't that depend on the
But not
company
that
that
much.
we go with? to do
Yeah.
that?
Just curious.
Could always pull a Marls and have an auction. Maybe not.
Oh,
very
yeah,
much
do it
here.
over auction thing, yeah.
No good, good.
I
It's just
do-
a lot of work.
a
Yeah.
lot of work, but I do not see us getting the people that spill the money out like we do at those auctions.
Well, if we do it on the day that the vendors are there.
Marls is more of a auction crowd, I think. I don't know if,
That was wild.
I don't know if
It's
GIS
fun.
folks are much auction folks, but
I bought a thing for a lot of money.
Okay. The other ideas that were floated out were we could increase conference fees, or that we could increase the Magip dues, which I know that we've done recently, and probably nobody has the wherewithal or the stomach to do anything like that. I just want to put it out there that sometimes it's easier to slowly, incrementally increase fees as opposed to doing it's been 10 years and so we're going to double your fees kind of thing. Whether or not you do like a $5 increase, does anybody see that? Same with the conference. Michelle, maybe you and I can add some more background to this, but Michelle and I were talking about like what our conference fees are compared to other organizations of our same size, and their conference fees, that our conference fees are really, really, really low. So like, I know that nobody wants to increase fees, and this is Montana, and you guys are all like laser, like shooting me down. Just FYI. You don't mean, maybe you don't mean to be, but you're like, whoa.
but probably minus Northwest GIS group. Their conference is very affordable, just like ours. So it,
Only like $10.
yeah, the
Yes,
membership is
exactly
like super
right.
low as
Yeah,
well.
that was so cheap, actually. I
They,
did just
I think that's just that's another benefit we should write down for our members, be a member, we get very low cost conference.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I honestly think, I don't know. We could slightly raise them, maybe.
I think like
totally
there
against
is,
any of
like
If
our
you're-
conferences have to keep
But-
up with inflation, like the registration.
Yeah.
But I don't know if our membership has to keep up with inflation because there's no real cost.
You look at the bottom line of the
As a
conference,
member.
though, it's still doing really well. Yes, it does fluctuate year to year depending on the location, but like, it's not like we've lost money on these conferences for a very long time.
Eric, so you were in the chat.
Yeah, I saw
Hey.
it.
I just,
Also, oh, go ahead.
hey guys, I just dropped, because I was anticipating this discussion. I kind of did some looking. I just dropped the in the chat. If you want to open it up, you can see it's the registrations, the cost for the Northwest GIS one.
Yeah, it's pretty close to us.
It's $130 more for a member to attend their conference than for us to attend ours as members.
Yeah, but their membership fees are
Super low.
So
super low, they're only $10.
It's all
Really?
kind of in
Well,
the-
yeah, their membership. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's not like the Euristas where it's like $600, $700, $800 to go.
Right.
It's-
Does anyone know how many non-members attended this and paid for the full conference fees? I'd be up for increasing conference fees for non-members.
Actually,
Value of having a membership.
Basically, it would be incentivizing them to pay for a membership because it's
Exactly,
cheaper.
yeah. As a member development
We
person,
already
I want
have
more
the two
members.
levels for non-member and member.
Yeah, no, I.
It's
Yeah,
And
but
you
then
and you
just
do
raise up.
save that amount if you become a member, so.
Okay, I hate to push this along because I know that we could talk about this for a long time, but
Well, what about another idea though of, not to say that we need to do this, but I know we've discussed this in the past, is having a fall tech session that's smaller and partner with like the state library, because I know they are interested too.
Yeah.
In coordinating
No, that'd be
this,
awesome.
and having it in obviously a different location than where we had our conference. But it'd be much more focused on training instead of all the stuff that goes on in our conference.
Well, that would be, I'm all for that, and we've had this discussion before.
I know, yeah.
But the library would have to put up most of that, unless we plan on talking to Michelle to help us out with this whole making another conference.
And I don't feel like they made the money in the past at the fall tech sessions are usually
They're
very
not as
low
well
attended.
attended.
They are.
Historically, they are
It's a
not
lot
as well
of, lot more
attended.
work.
Yeah,
And
Not a lot of
yeah,
money for them.
yeah, exactly.
And
when
the
we went to an
library,
every year
budget
conference, we
issues.
decided not to do that. Because
Absolutely.
otherwise
I
you're
agree.
planning a
I
conference
agree.
all the time.
Is there anything else we need?
And
from us
you're
to get
No, I
having the
totally
same
agree. You're right.
resources.
Do you want to go over just
I like it.
Classes.
Yeah.
proposed
Very good.
2025 and
You're right.
then-
Yeah,
All of it.
okay, I'm gonna just like
Yeah.
wrap those conversations up for just a second because we need to stay on the schedule because we have 35 minutes until everybody needs to leave. So Nate has one more slide and then we're gonna do the website. Okay,
Okay, so this last slide just shows some of those expected expenses and revenue that we'll see in 2025 and puts them in the budget. And that's what it comes out to. We mentioned that we could possibly lower the food expense. Right now it's at $25,000 and we said it might be less because it's in Helena and people have access to food. So if we did that, we could lower that $25,000 to $22,000 and that would kind of show us breaking even for the year.
Well,
All
and
right.
if we do a Friday workshops, that'll add to that too, that will.
Right,
That might
yeah.
cover that.
I
as
think we
well.
have to, I mean, obviously we have to check the availability of the hotel first.
Are you guys going to do workshops on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday?
Or just Monday and Friday.
No, I would say front and back. loaded.
Tuesday and maybe Tuesday and Friday,
Tuesday and
or just Tuesday and Friday?
Not Monday.
Not Monday.
No, the 3 days of workshops.
3 days of workshops, yeah, we were gonna have it was gonna be 5 days.
Yeah.
Instead of 4.
I would keep the 2 days, cause like Kara's stuff is 2 days.
That's
Intro
nice.
to RJ's online is 2 days, but then we could kind of cater towards people that might be sticking around. for
Yeah, right.
The only problem about splitting though is like you're eliminating the 2-day workshops altogether. You don't have time to, I mean, you can't split it up from having a Tuesday and then finish it up on.
No, that's
no,
what I
that's
mean.
what
So
she
Well,
what
that's
just
what I'm
said,
saying,
yeah,
Monday,
and then
Tuesday, and then having the
and then
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Friday
So
would
not-
only
so
be
not-
the
Yeah, that's what
one
we're
day.
saying,
Yeah, for this.
right.
Oh, I thought you said 2 days.
No.
No.
So like, you need to keep those two together.
Yeah.
And then
Keep
you
the
can
two
rotate
together,
the
right.
Friday.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Repeat
know.
it too.
Okay.
No worries. No, so there's just kind of two things going on with like 2 days, 3 days.
Are there any action items that we need for the budget?
Action items.
Or can
No,
we
we're
do
not approving
action
it.
items in July?
Yeah, so I think we could approve the budget in July,
Okay,
take a
Do
vote
you
then.
feel like that
and
we're gonna
then-
get done with it by then?
So,
I hope
Could-
so. I
you
mean,
could
I
at
think
the
that
very-
would be perfect time to do
You
it.
could at the very latest August too.
Yeah, right, but if we can get it done. in
if we
July,
can
that'd
get
be
it done
great.
in July, that would be my
yeah.
preference.
And then another action item would be to approve opening up another CD
Yeah,
in July.
definitely get that done.
Okay, sorry, just making some notes for myself. And then the CD. Okay, thank you, everybody. That was a great discussion about the budget and we won't be taking any action on that until July.
I would recommend it if you get something, you get some more
Yeah.
numbers ironclad that you send it out to.
Yeah,
everybody
let's send it
so
out
we can all
before
take a
then.
look
It needs,
at it.
yeah, it needs
That'd
to
be
be a
great.
review.
Yeah.
You know,
That'd be super. Okay, who's going to demonstrate the new website? Is that Megan or Mike
Hillary,
or?
you want controls?
Tessa?
Yeah, I'll share my
Oh,
screen.
Yeah.
or Hillary?
Yeah, Hillary. 4 of the 5 are in here right now.
Okay,
There really isn't a whole lot to show, other than the fact that we already presented this link to everybody, so hopefully everybody got a chance to take a look at it. We're basically just looking for feedback from everybody on what you think. Hillary's gonna show this website here in a minute.
that's good because this might get us back on.
I know,
on
that's cool.
like-
It was for showing me all the stuff.
I liked the
I was
best.
trying to change that to be, but it didn't work.
Looks so nice.
So this is this is what we have come up with in our working group that we are having. I don't know how many of the links are working or whatever. Did you guys want to talk about it or did you just, I don't really have a lot to talk about.
I can just run through.
It looks nice. I love
You
the
want to run
background.
through it quick? Yeah.
Yeah, so these pieces will be built out. They'll show like the top 5 or 6 events and the top 5 or 6 news items. And then something about like our upcoming conference, like some image or something. And then we have like different links here that are active. But this is the main page. We wanted it short and simple. A lot of things are clickable to get around, like you can click, you know, here. But our main topics up here, we have like the mission statement, like who we are, what we do. And then we have these links down here to get to like our join page. A lot of the things kind of look the same, but they're just kind of rearranged.
Exactly. And that was a big goal, is rearranging things to make it a lot easier to navigate.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the being able to log in to get to the request for assistance and those other things? Is that going to be the way that you're envisioning that looking?
Yeah, so for some pages, you have to be logged in to see them.
Okay.
Everything on the home page you can see. I think right now, what the membership pages and the board of
Right.
directors pages are private.
But I think what we would want is a landing page for like the
Yes.
request for assistance, like the button would still be available.
And then you
without
just have
your
to
logging
sign in.
And then you have to log in to
Yes.
actually get that.
Yes.
Things
Yeah.
Can
with
I
the special interest
Yep.
group.
make one comment on that?
Yeah.
Please.
Our student program stuff, those people are probably not going to be, it changes every year and they're probably not going to be members necessarily, then they want to request assistance.
Well, I mean, that was the whole thing. I mean, that was a question that we had. Do you have to be a member to make the request? I don't think you do.
Oh, I think we.
I think you
we
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Isn't that the
The students
benefit
at
of?
MSU
Yeah.
are not.
Well, see, that's what Jenny was talking
necessarily.
about.
Okay.
Well,
They're
unless-
like their own thing. Where
I thought that was in like the bylaws or
it
something.
is,
Yeah.
it is written at least, yeah.
But they're the only
Somewhere
ones that
to
are
on
in
the
the
request
anomaly
for assistance.
that you can
page.
pick up, or they could, they'd be the only group that would be.
I'm in the University of Montana.
And I feel like in
Could
the past,
possibly
they've
be
just.
They could
emailed
decide they wanna
it
do
to,
something.
they couldn't.
right,
if-
you know, they
can
can
we-
just get a hold of one of us.
Can
to
we
put it-
convince MSU or UM to become organizational members and students could apply for help or things like that through their organization, the university?
That's a good question, because Eric actually fell off of being a member when we had, our year was up and we had to repay for the year. He actually fell off in March because he was actually a student and not working at the city.
I mean, I think all of the, I would love to see all the universities have organizational memberships. Definitely an area I was
Mm-hmm.
brainstorming on.
Yeah,
so-
that's actually on the agenda, but I don't think we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about it.
It's okay, we could talk about it next time. But
The request for assistance changes.
And then the student can be like, I want to be a member. And then you see it said that,
It would definitely be less of a burden on the web folks if you had to log in with your membership to, instead of us having to go and check to see
Yeah.
if you're a member.
And maybe for now, you could just have a disclaimer that says, like, are you a university or a whatever, contact so-and-so.
That's an
Until-
idea.
till it
That's a
gets-
greid idea.
Just until it gets, till Helen gets all of them to become members, then we
Well said.
Right?
Yeah, I think if there's still at least that contact information there, they could still get a hold of us, and I would like to think the MSU folks would try to
I'm
get a hold of us.
thinking of people that don't, their work doesn't support them or doesn't pay for memberships. That they might be having to pay for themselves.
Do we have scholarships for that?
We have requests for assistance.
That's what you have
For
to
memberships?
We don't.
Oh.
For memberships, do we have scholarships for that?
Not currently.
No, we don't,
Okay.
not currently. It's something we've been talking about, but no.
Yeah, one of the things that's been coming up in discussions that I've been having regarding the tribes, and that is that they don't get reimbursed for anything like this. For them to be part of our organization, they wouldn't get reimbursed for the travel here. They wouldn't get reimbursed for a membership. They would not get reimbursed for paying to go to a conference. So that's just culturally the way that their system works. So I do wonder if that's some.
That's definitely an impediment, but I have to say that's the same thing for all federal employees as well.
Yes. Yep. Because Rob was telling me that he's paid for all of his travel and his membership to get into the conference.
Well, there's even a lot of some state agencies are structured that way too. MBT is like that, where those guys pay for their memberships on their own dime.
So I think that's a lot of times where we might be coming up with those non-member conference registrations is because they will pay for a conference registration, but they won't pay for a membership. And
So-
where it's the same amount, either way, they'll go for the non-member registration.
That brings up Helen's point of raising the non-member.
Yeah, so it's like slightly more affordable if you get the membership and then do the conference registration.
I think they will still pay for it.
What was it this year?
I don't understand why they would pay more if they have to pay for something out of their own pocket.
They're
And if
not
it's-
paying for the conference registration, their business, their work will pay for that. But it won't pay for memberships.
So this is something that we've talked about, that if, and this goes to vendors as well, because it's really weird the way that we have it structured, that we would have vendors that are paying their sponsorship dues. And then when they go to our meetups, they don't actually get a ticket for a drink because they're not members. So
They typically do, I think.
Yeah,
We just
well, I mean,
don't
the
check.
whole ticket thing is kind of, that was kind of I mean, it was just like, yeah, here.
Yeah, we were
It
handling
wasn't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
organized.
yeah, I understand that, but if we're being like hard lined about it, and in some cases we may, that actually came up as being sort of sketch, because it's like they're paying $1,000 to sponsor our organization and they're coming to our meetup, but they're not actually a member of Magip. So the question is, do we make them a member of Magip? Do we give them an organizational membership because they're a sponsor? Like, how do we bridge that gap?
Well, none of those sponsors are members.
Oh,
at all.
Pickett is.
Well, I'm sorry. but
And when-
yeah.
There's a few.
And when you say they're
State
sponsoring.
library is.
So is
Membership,
so is
what do you-
Wet.
Like, no, what I'm saying is sponsoring our conference, right? That if we have a sponsor that pays
Right.
for like a silver sponsorship, that they're not necessarily members of Magip.
Right.
And that as part of that, they wouldn't be included in, like, say, getting a ticket for the meetup, but then also they're not a member of Magip, right?
I don't think we typically have closed off our,
No, I was just, I don't
Monday
think they've
event.
ever not gotten included in the Monday
Yeah.
night meetup.
yeah, but like even like anyone can come to really our like
Yeah.
family, you know.
Yeah, we've never gotten tight on
Yeah.
security. and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
I was gonna say, did somebody not get a drink ticket and complain about it? Because I don't know.
There was
Mike
somebody
was
that
handing them out,
commented
like,
to me
candy at
that
the-
they didn't.
They didn't.
Well, they weren't,
But the-
it's not like something that we do like, oh, hey, you're a member, here's your ticket.
Yeah, no, we've never asked anybody if they're a member in
No.
order to get their drink ticket.
I mean, what we could do, I mean, we've done this in the past too, is slip it into the badges.
Yeah.
Mm,
You know?
mhm.
So only those that are members.
Right.
Not a bad idea.
I didn't realize the meetups were at the conference were a member, not like,
I
I
don't
didn't realize that.
think
I
we've
don't know
really,
if they
I don't think we've
have
typically,
Conference meetup.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I just
Yeah.
assumed it was like a social event for a conference, and I'd give everybody drink tickets.
Okay, okay, yeah.
I mean,
okay.
I still think it's an open invitation. you
I
know,
think it's an open invitation too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when we had public night, we invited anybody and everybody in.
Yeah, yeah, because,
I love that, like bringing
Yeah.
people to the table and I don't know, feel like
yeah.
give
So,
a few extra
so-
drink
so-
tickets out.
so the last time I was in Helena, they actually did something really cool. They actually had like kind of a family public night. And they actually had kind of like this sandbox thing that was real cool.
We had done
And
that
game,
in Bozeman, too.
computers
We
set
actually
up.
brought in a guy to present on GPS and how to use them.
So I just looked and just to give you a little point of reference, we have 35 non-members of conference and buildings, 35 people. And like 4 of them were Dowell, from Dowell. And I would say at least half of them were vendors. Half of those 35 were probably vendors.
I wonder if some of the vendors cannot be a member of an organization just because of.
Well, it'd be a lot of organizations that they would be a part of, like,
Yeah, that's what I
you
was
know.
thinking too. Yeah, okay.
you know, like someone like Sanborn, they probably do 30 conferences a year. It'd be
Probably
hard-
have their own division, just as hires for that, travels around for that.
And somebody with Dowell is a member now because they just wanted to get on the jazz contract.
I know, I just emailed you about that. Yeah, thank
Nice,
you for doing
nice.
that.
It's a good incentive for the GS contract.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I want to kind of keep us on track because we're going to be behind. Is there anybody that has a hard stop at 2? Okay,
We all have.
Um,
another meeting with Curtis.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
Well, then, the last thing I always want to say about our website is, does anybody have any comments? Anything else you'd like to see change? I did send out the link, so feel free to look at it, get a hold of Hillary, Megan, myself, Tessa, or Curtis. We are planning on having a meeting right after this and kind of going over a few things here from the meeting, and actually gonna start probably going live with this thing pretty soon, so.
So excited.
I think
I have one comment. I think it looks amazing. It seems so much easier to navigate. I will say on that sort of sponsor section, you guys probably already are keyed into this with the logos of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
definitely
That's my
just
only,
Yep.
comment.
Yeah.
trying to show what it could look like, but not putting in the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where's some of the other stuff after you log in, like the SIG or the request for assistance or like the bylaws? I mean, is there a
So,
tab for
yep.
that?
So that's the thing we're like considering, is if we need to add tabs at the top. Right now, everything's like a link on the main page, so I think we're changing the name of this, but this is the request for funding. We wanted our scholarships and awards to be prominent, so people would know about them.
Yeah.
And
So I
then
guess
Once you
and
click in
then
there, then
It's the page, yeah.
well, you'll have the login page, right?
If you
go
need to log in to get to it.
yeah,
That was gonna be my
right.
question, is that
That's
how
what
do
we're
we
suggesting.
prompt people to log in to get content? Because what I would be afraid of is that people don't know that I'm like,
Yeah,
I know that I can log in, but there's a lot of people that probably don't know that they're gonna need to log in.
Yeah.
Like, they pay for their membership and then forget about it until the next year when they have to sign up.
So would the request for assistance still be on that main page, but as soon as you
Right
go to
here.
it, it would prompt you to log in?
Yeah, that'd
Is
be
that
the
kind of
first
the
thing,
thinking?
that'd be the
Yeah.
first thing that
Perfect.
sees.
That would be my fear, because like, you know, like the SIG, there's no information about the SIGs if you're not logged in. Be nice if there
Yeah.
could be something.
We will make that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
nice, and
Right.
that you would have the link to
Yeah.
it, and then it'll prompt you to log in. That's a great
Perfect.
idea. Okay.
Suggest that we put the request for assistance, like multiple places, like I'm sure you'll have it somewhere with the conference registration, but maybe also, since we talked about it, like right near the, get your membership tab, just
yeah.
as an option. I don't know if we're actually gonna go that route, but one suggestion, definitely make that request for assistance.
We do have, so like in the join page, we do have like your membership benefits.
Uh-huh.
So there's like tabs
Yeah.
there
Oh, okay.
for special interest groups. And then I think as well,
If you remember
If they
on
get
our old site,
involved.
there are multiple ways of getting to multiple areas or the same area. At one time, we were trying to eliminate.
Yeah,
some of that.
please
You know,
eliminate
there's
that.
just so much of that.
Yeah, just
yeah,
that-
keep it very
But,
clean.
yeah, I mean,
We'll
we'll
work on it.
definitely, I
Just
mean,
in
obviously the
particular
request for
that-
assistance, yeah.
yeah,
'cause
it's
we've
like
been
the
talking
important
about
thing.
Yeah, more prominent,
Things
yeah.
that make us money should probably be pretty easy to
Yeah.
find.
And then if you don't know where something is, there's always a search box.
I love it.
And then here's all our board of directors. So we have, our governing documents, it's gonna be the bylaws. We wanted the elections to be on the main page, your meetings, and then the general information about board of directors. So.
I know this
Oh,
is like
awesome.
standard what we've always done, but I've seen this with certain other boards. Do we want to expand that page? So, because I know like the Prickly Pear Land Trust, they have like a picture and a little bio of every board member that's
Yeah.
on there, and I'm sure it's just like a replace every time a board member drops off and comes back on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of expand a little bit, because if you don't have anything in your profile, it's obviously another click too.
Yeah.
But it's just something to think about,
Yeah,
future things. I think.
Yeah, when I was in Idaho, we scrubbed our page of any personal information.
That's true.
Yeah,
For privacy.
yeah.
And it's an election.
All of it.
Like all the
Yeah,
bios and
it's-
stuff.
It'll be in the election.
Yeah, we still have an election.
If you really want to
Yeah.
dig, but that's
That's a good point.
I mean, I wouldn't care if it was behind a sign in, right? But
Mhm.
maybe-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
okay.
All
Just,
right.
Does anybody online have any comments on the website at all, or?
All these headings are also links. So
No,
Yep.
I think it looks great. I played around. I did some things. I'm listening to everyone's comments. Yeah, and I know it's you have, and listening there, you have a mix there of entities and that are scrubbing their sites of all contact information and others that it's wide open. I mean, you go to the council website and all of our board names and pictures. I don't recall if our contact information's on that though, now that I think about it, but yeah, no, I think this is a great step forward. I appreciate all your guys' work on this, so thank you.
Thanks,
There's
Eric.
a contact us button somewhere though, that is a general number or, you know.
Yeah, we haven't.
Well,
really
it
done
is,
that,
but it's the Magip email and then it's contact Michelle, really.
Just goes to the Magip Gmail.
Yeah.
okay,
It's good though, guys. I
it
like
does. It looks great. Well done.
Background
You guys
Thank
are
you.
awesome. It looks great.
Yeah.
I take zero credit for any of this.
I give Tessa and Megan all the credit.
Don't.
Oh, no, give it all to Hillary.
Oh, give it all to
I
Hillary.
I got the background. That's
Hillary and Tessa
good
and
with
Megan
that.
for sure.
All right, you guys, everybody has already said that we have a hard stop at 2:00. So to be able to get through the next 3 things, everybody gets 5 minutes. So, Helen, you're up. Member development.
Okay, so I know I probably stole some of that time earlier with a little detour on the survey results, but one thing that has come up a number of times is, the students are the future of our membership, and I'm really an advocate of engaging students and making it financially accessible for students to enjoy the benefits of Magip membership as well as attend the conference. Gail and I had a conversation with Tyler Kavish from Ayers, who co-presented with Gail at the last conference about potentially having student sponsorship opportunities, either as like some kind of named sponsorship level that's like, I'm sponsoring the early professional development, working group, or if there's some kind of group meeting that happens there, I'd like to maybe make some improvements to that sort of student group in this next for this next conference. But potentially having a specific student sponsorship in there in our various gold, silver, whatever, that's an option that helps contribute towards scholarships that could fund things like travel and hotels and food for those students to actually make it. Because I know when I was a student, I wouldn't have had monies for, I gotta pay for that hotel at the Northern, even though it's a really good deal. So
I guess coming from the private sector, is that something that Pickett would?
I actually think so. I know Tyler was thinking, that some companies might be interested in, proclaiming their glory as the key, student, whatever this meeting or some kind of group thing happens, that they would be the sponsor of that. One other option that I had suggested as an add-on, in the sponsorship, it's another, maybe, I don't know, $200 or something, would you like to support students attending this? And then there's some added recognition for that. So maybe either a sponsorship level that is, the student scholar specialist or whatever, some glorious sounding name a company might bite on, or ability to tack $50 or $100 or $200 onto your sponsorship level to be highlighted as, somebody that supports students, sponsored a student to join us. So those are some ideas we've talked about. I'm sure there's other thoughts about that, but I do think that folks in the private sector really recognize that the students are also the future of the workforce and the really awesome GIS ninjas that we all want to hire and lure to our companies to do all the cool things we can't do yet, because we're getting old.
So we have done that in the past. We've tried that a couple of different times, and I don't think we had any takers. But having said that, we are getting some different sponsors that we haven't also had in the past. So there might be some that would. might-
Yeah, I would say that the feedback, the meeting also included Jackson Rose from Montana State University as well. We invited Eric Schreier, who was unable to attend. So we had kind of a diverse group of people in the meeting, and it was just ideas to brainstorm how we could support the students. And I think the earlier conversation that goes back to those relationships is definitely something that we need to work on this year. I think that those relationships are there, but maybe have been neglected. But the feedback that we got also spoke with Verta GIS, who is one of our vendors, all on board with sponsoring students, having recognition for sponsoring students, willing to write the check to support students. The other thing that came out of that was the idea of recruitment and internships. So students coming to the table with a resume in hand, and then the vendors looking at that, but then also being prepared when they come to the conference to say, yep, we have an internship and we're willing to fund a student. And then the idea maybe of doing a breakfast with the vendors and the students so that they can be in the same room, as opposed to maybe the student roundtable that a lot of the feedback from the students was that they felt like they were the only ones that were in the room. And so the whole point of having the students there and the vendors there is so that they can communicate, and that somehow that just got lost in translation this year. And it's probably been done a number of different ways, but maybe just need to spend more time on that. But then, sorry, Helen, I didn't mean to take over for you.
No.
Go ahead.
Well, and that roundtable is also competing with other presentations.
Yes,
That
and
did not
that
help.
is the other thing that happened as
Cause it was
well.
the same time as my talk. so
Yep, and I
couldn't
would,
jump in.
yes, exactly.
I think I was moderating.
Yep, okay.
What if you put like another level of sponsorship, like student sponsor, somewhere in that area, or build it into the current tiers?
Yeah, that's what we were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Yep.
it's, gold, silver, like,
Oh, yeah.
whatever, some cool title. or-
Mhm.
But obviously it would
But
need
if
to
you
be
had a baby,
promoted.
like
It
a
obviously
little
needs to be
one.
promoted heavily too.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah,
like, if you wanna
absolutely,
throw an
absolutely.
extra
Yep.
$50 towards the
Wouldn't
student.
happen by
Yeah,
itself.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I think it's a, much more detailed conversation because
Yes.
you're talking about getting them for the whole conference, which then requires maybe 2 nights hotel instead of
Yes.
1.
yes.
So the sponsorship, if you're gonna add on and sponsor a student to come for the whole thing, like that's quite a bit of money, actually.
Yeah, one of the things that Rob had actually brought up in our conversation was the idea of having more of the students actually present. Some of those master students potentially coming to the table and being able to present what they're studying on, so that they could have that as something as professional development that they could put on their resume, right? So those kinds of things in terms of the professional realm, but that's also student, right?
Even like the high schools too.
Yes.
I remember, you probably remember this there, Megan, in 2012 when Kalispell had their conference.
Mhm.
Big Fork High School has a GIS club.
Oh,
And it was
sweet.
phenomenal. Like, because I was a college
Yeah.
student at the time, and I just was just like, you guys are doing this in high school and middle school? Like, it was pretty cool.
that is very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, you have a half a minute, Helen. Anything else?
I think I just wanted to bring some of those ideas to the table and get some feedback on thoughts, and, it is expensive to pay for hotels and lodging and all the things, and, I would love to brainstorm creative ways to be able to
It
get more.
doesn't necessarily have to be like a one-to-one sponsorship though. Like if if multiple people chip in for
Yeah.
one student,
Yeah.
like it doesn't have to be.
And we
on
know
just
that like
everything.
students aren't always super motivated to like get their stuff done. Like we've had some unclaimed student scholarships, for example, but I just think
Yes.
the option to be able to support really, awesome motivated students to cover more than just the conference costs would be really beneficial.
But looking at the last 2 years, you kind of see the momentum of the kind of uptick in the students. I think a lot of that had to go back from COVID, coming out of COVID. It took us a while just to get back re-engaged.
Yeah, being in Missoula and Bozeman would help too.
You'd
like
exactly
college
right.
Yeah,
But when
abs, for
Missoula
sure.
first coming out of COVID, I mean, I don't think we had any students, but that was our first one
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
I think that this is definitely something that we need to spend more time with, but also how that impacts the budget. So I wonder if we could have like an email exchange to talk about what this could look like between now and July, when we're gonna have to approve a budget. So we need to step away from this and move into the 2026 conference, but I definitely think that that should be an email chain that starts going around to talk about these ideas of sponsoring the students and what we're going to do and how we're going to support it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. Okay, Jeff, 2026
Well,
conference.
I want to say one thing though. I think Helen is the perfect person.
I
for
do,
this
I
membership.
agree.
Does that mean you voted for me?
He probably
You were the only
recruited you.
one that was running.
I know, but I still wanted to get votes.
Definitely got my vote. Okay, Jeff.
All right, so this, I think there's probably two potential locations. I mean, there's probably more than two, but we had a conversation with the BIA. It was mainly just state library talks, but Gail wanted to come representing Magip.
I was invited to come.
You were invited.
I was invited to come. Yeah.
Clarification.
Yeah.
So we talked with Ken Dixie about this, and he had suggested kind of one great way of kind of integrating the tribes into our conference is having it on a tribal reservation area, and the greatest place that we can think of is Polson. There is some restrictions with this location. What's the name of the hotel? Pataka, yeah, Pataka Resort. They don't have as many breakout rooms as we typically have. I think they have 3 that essentially combines into one room, which it would be a banquet. So we wouldn't have the. I mean, we could still do it, but there would be a turnaround time of having to go from 3 rooms to 1. And then obviously still. We only have the ability to do 3 workshops at one time. And I don't think the presentations is that big of a deal, but 3 concurrent sessions. So it does limit our conference, and I think they have like a 200 capacity within that.
I think so, yeah.
But I don't think we'd have that big of, I don't think that would be that big of a deal. I mean, that's about where we've been pulling in for attendance anyway, but.
Yes, but I'm not deterring that, but yeah, that's kind of pushing it though.
Yes.
To the point where you don't want to. It's right on the line, that kind of thing.
Is
Yeah.
there an offsite besides that facility? Is there somewhere else that we can spread out into?
That would be
The
my
red-
other question.
I
The
feel
Red
like-
Lion is, but it's 2 miles away, just under 2 miles away.
But people
Um,
could stay there and
People,
then
yeah,
come to
the
the
room,
conference.
yeah, because I know we won't be able to have as big of a room block at the Pataka. So we would potentially have room blocks to 2 different locations.
The question I have is, does having the conference hosted, on a reservation mean that we are like for sure gonna have a lot more tribal participation? I don't know what the GIS community looks like up, out or in the Polson area.
The Kootenai, what is it?
Because-
It's the one that Zolman used to work for.
Salish, is it Salish?
Yeah, Salish Kootenai has the GIS. They have
Yeah.
GIS on.
Well,
Because,
I mean,
I
it was
would've
in
thought-
Billings.
yeah.
I was really expecting a little bit more out of
That's-
Billings.
Was
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking
Yeah, 'cause of the
about
Crows
Rocky
right
Mountain
there.
College
Yeah,
Crow, and
yeah.
I was expecting a little bit more
Yes.
participation, so that's why I
Yeah,
asked that question.
it's kind of
Yes.
a combination of, I mean, I think going into this year's conference, we are gonna have to do a lot more work, with tribal representation to pull this off. And I don't necessarily think that means just going through Ken, because the way he explained is he can't really speak on behalf of the tribes. He's
Yeah.
kind of the go-between, like he can help coordinate with the tribes, but
Yes.
he's not their voice
Yeah.
or their sole voice.
Yeah, he can instruct, right? That's his role, is to instruct and to guide, but not to do.
Yeah.
I guess is the way
They can choose not
say
to
that.
listen.
Yes,
essentially, so,
exactly.
right.
And I think that that's why those early conversations that we're having now to talk about, wouldn't it be great if we had somebody who was a member of the tribe as the VP this year? They would actually be moving into the presidency the year that the conference would be held if we decide that it's gonna be held in Polson.
I thought she wanted to do one more.
Well, we're not even sure that that's gonna happen. I have a meeting with, Esri's tribal, their tribal representative to see if there's a person that would be willing to step into that role. And this is all purely like,
I think Rob.
we're making the suggestion,
Yeah.
right?
Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, we have a member, Martin Zobel, who works as a GIS specialist for the tribe. So it'd be worth reaching out to him and seeing what, talking about some of these issues. And if we want tribal representation, what exactly does that mean? What do we want from them? What can they offer? Can they come and do some presentations on how they're using GIS to manage tribal resources? So I think Martin would be able to help with that, and that might be a great starting point.
Thank you. Hey, Rob, would you mind sending me an email with that person's contact name?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, I feel so badly. This conversation really deserves more time, and given
okay.
the hard 2 o'clock stop, Erin is it's actually Eric Spangenberg and Erin.
I'm sure she's.
Probably. Hey, Eric. Yeah.
Hey.
Okay.
I'm here. Aaron's here.
Okay. You're up.
I'm up. Okay. Well, our next meeting, council meets July 11th. It'll be a Thursday. Meeting details are on their website. The location looks like it's still to be determined. We had a quick meeting in June. That was primarily, though, to go over the budget, and actually the discussion was had regarding the collections and the revenue drop in collections for that's available for grants and for things like that. And so that was our primary discussion with a quick meeting in June. And then, like I said, our next one's in July. And I think with Erin on, she has some other things that she wants to bring up regarding that. I would leave that to her since she's more in the know. So
Thank you. Erin?
We still have a hard stop at 2.
We're still in the room. We lost one person. I think we still have a quorum.
Got it. Okay, I'll try to go as quickly as I can. Well, let's see. I wanted to let you know that the FGDC is going to release their geospatial strategic plan. The current plan expires this calendar year, and it should be posted to the Federal Registry sometime within the next week or two. And that will be released for public review and comment. And I hope to comment on behalf of the Montana State Library and possibly the council, depending upon how much time we have to review and submit public comment. But I think it's a pretty important step in adopting and moving forward with the Federal Geospatial Data Act. So keep an eye out for that. As soon as I get a hold of it, I will submit for everyone else to review. And then, let's see, I'm just trying to cut through everything. We are statutorily mandated to create a geospatial strategic plan and I'm sorry, a geospatial information plan. With the recent changes to the Montana Land Information Act, which is now called the Montana Geospatial Information Act, the requirements for the information plan changed just slightly. It still has to be created in consultation with the council. It has to prioritize the needs for the collection, maintenance, and dissemination of geospatial information. And typically that is the Montana Spatial Data Infrastructure and those prioritized data layers. It sets the priorities for general GIS and geospatial coordination by the Montana State Library, and then priorities for grant awards. And one of the bigger changes is that it has to be reviewed and, if appropriate, updated every 3 years. And so this is kind of what we've been considering a rebuilding year with the new council going from 22 members to 11 members. And we are going to take a pretty big deep dive look at the land information plan and how we want to change it to become this new geospatial information plan. That will be done at the July 11th council meeting, which will be held here in Helena. I believe, Eric, the room is at the library right now. We're going to send out the final details soon. Everyone is open to attend it, but we will start the process of redesigning and taking a deeper dive into what we want that plan to look like. And so upon the writing, development, and approval of the plan, at some point it will be sent out for public comment to all of our geospatial stakeholders. And so we will, ask Magip to give comment and or just the membership in general is how we end up sending out our information to get feedback on. In the past, from my experience, we don't really get a lot of feedback on it. And so we're trying to address that and understand the lack of interest in providing feedback and trying to get people excited. And then I guess the last thing that I want to discuss is, I think you're all well aware of our significant budget issues and shortfalls that we're having right now. We had to cancel the FY25 grant program. And unfortunately, we had to, limit the extension. So typically we extend grants into a second or sometimes even third year due to the more recently pandemic and some other extremely extenuating circumstances. And unfortunately, we had to cancel that. And we've been working with our grantees. Revenues are not rebounding quite yet. I don't think we're going to see them rebound for a while. The revenues are collected based on county recordation fees, and those county recordation fees typically the amounts or the highest amount of recorded documents have to do with a mortgage refinancing or a mortgage in itself. Due to the federal interest rates being extremely high at this point, we've just seen a really big stall in real estate activity. And so I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the federal news, but there's some discussion about potentially the Fed reducing interest rates once they feel comfortable that we're no longer in danger. So there's talk at the federal level of reducing those interest rates that could therefore impact the way folks are acting in Montana, and those funds could go up. That being said, it is more of a volatile fund, and there has been internal discussions. I can't get into it too much about what we could do to protect the work, the program in the future. And as it stands now, we don't have any legislative, the Montana State Library are not bringing forth any type of legislation, geospatial legislation. There is talk about other entities bringing forward some legislation to deal with this. Unfortunately, our governing body, the commission, did not approve any move forward with imagery. So an imagery repository or an imagery program. And so those were some of the other discussions we were having about potential legislation that we could bring forward. Nevertheless, things happen, and it will be an interesting time over the next 6 months until January 5th or 6th, whenever the next session starts up. And I will be keeping the board involved on any legislative things that could come up that could impact geospatial activities in Montana. So I don't really have much more information on who could be bringing what. You just never know. There's a lot of discussion about boundaries and cadastral and parcels, and there's been interest in that the past few legislative sessions, but nothing's come out of it. From what I understand, there's still some interest, and so we will be monitoring all activities when it comes to any kind of legislative effort that would impact our day-to-day tasks in Montana. So I just wanted to give that brief update and invite you all to attend the council meeting on July 11th, whether it's in person or online. And then also thank you for approving the meetup. So and invite you to the meetup too. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Erin. Appreciate it. Do you have any questions? Okay. So do we need to have a motion to adjourn? Okay.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
2:09. Dang, you guys rocked it.
Not bad.
Okay, before we all leave, I have a question about